What's up, Sifters? It's GameFace, episode 32, right here on Sifted Games. After a brief day's delay, we are here to talk about the biggest and the best in video games from the week. Tomorrow is the Game Awards, Matt. Jeff Keighley's big production. We're going to definitely talk about that in the show, get you guys hyped for that. This is also, Matt, the last week of big releases for the year.
Yeah,
this is it.
Just Cause 3 and Xenoblade Chronicles are about it.
Yep. Yeah, it's we're going to do, just to let you guys know, we're going to do, obviously, today's show. We're going to do another show next Tuesday, and then we're probably going to do a show just a couple days after that, which would be the Thursday, like next Thursday. So you're going to get 2 episodes of GameFace next week, but then that's it for the year. And the second episode next week is going to be our Game of the Year episode. So Matt and I are going to be picking our winners in a number of different categories.
We got to look at that fantasy draft.
Oh, that's right, because that'll be it. Yeah, so we'll also unveil who won the Fantasy Video Game League between myself and Marcus Beer. See who ultimately takes home the crown. Of course, next year will be Matt and I going head-to-head. You've had the benefit of watching us both succeed and fail at this for 1 year, so it'll probably be a little better.
And I think a whole new wave of games that never come out.
Yeah, exactly, because that really is what it's worked out to. Like,
yeah, a lot of delays.
Yeah, whoever probably had the most games that actually came out this year is who's going to win, but we will definitely check up on the score for that in one of next week's episodes, probably the one on Thursday. But then after that, we'll be done for the year. And I think what is the date for next Thursday?
Is that the 10th?
The 10th or the 4th? Do you know what the date is, Tony? Next Thursday? That'd be the 12th, maybe?
The 12th is...
Anyway, we'll figure it out. But, so obviously that's a little early. Most people kind of leave for the Christmas break around the 18th or the 19th. And that holds true for me as well. It's the 10th.
Thursday the 10th.
Yeah. So I'll be heading back to the East Coast on around the 18th or the 19th. So there'll be a week there where I can come in and do live streams. And we'll hook up something for you guys. We'll definitely have some new content for you sifters during that period. But the last GameFace will be next Thursday for 2015. But it should be a good show. It should be a fun show. Definitely try to dig up some fun categories to try to pick some winners. And it won't just all be like Game of the Year, best graphics. Although there'll be that stuff too. So pretty excited for that. I'm excited to do a Game of the Year where it's not like a month and a half of hard work. Because at GT, like literally, we'd have a meeting for like 3 hours. And then we'd like leave that meeting and come back and do another meeting for like half a day. And I mean, it was so much work. And then we create a separate video for each award. And it was always like, I would be leaving to fly home and there's like 5 edits to check in the edit. It was just a scramble always to get it done.
We'd already be cutting it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, because we would be doing it, we would have done it today.
Yeah.
We would have done it today or Friday because we would always piggyback on the VGAs.
Right.
Because everybody was in town.
Riding that marketing wave and all the people that
so they could come in and do
right.
acceptance speeches.
Exactly.
That was the key.
So yeah, it'll be fun to just do kind of a more laid back, I wouldn't say lackadaisical, but a little more mellow version of the awards this year. But they'll be fun. So make sure you check us out. Both episodes we do next week. But for now, let's get to the Big Six. Just Cause 3, Matt. We're going to talk about it.
Why?
Because we need to.
Just cause?
Well, exactly. So we're going to talk about the 3 big releases. We left out earlier that Rainbow Six Siege also kind of came out this week. We'll get into that in a little bit. But first we're going to talk about Just Cause 3. Matt, have you had a chance to play this game at all in any way, shape, or form?
I have not. I saw so many reports of technical problems on every platform that I just sort of decided to hold off.
Yeah, I am playing it on the PlayStation 4. Like I end up playing pretty much 95% of the games I play. On a technical level, it definitely has issues. Like the loading on the PlayStation 4 is really slow. But one thing I will say about that is generally most games, if they have really bad loading at launch, it's usually fixed pretty quickly. I mean, you think back to Bloodborne, it had some pretty awful loading, and they got that cut in half ultimately. And the old Hunters, they had improved it even more. So that is one of those things that I'm not really going to hold against the game when I do the game eval too much. I'll mention it, obviously, because you have to review what's on the disc. And you can't always assume they're going to fix something. But it's not like my biggest gripe. And there are some glitches, like... I'll say one thing. They did a good job with the promotional media for this game of hiding a lot of the graphical flaws. There's lots of weird glitches. You said you saw one where a deer was driving a car.
Yeah, it was a deer kind of like somehow the deer model sort of like gotten jammed into the driver's seat. So it wasn't perfect. The feet were kind of sticking out of the windshield, but it did look like the deer was in the driver's seat. I've also seen another one where a deer was like standing on the hood staring at the driver, and like even when the car flipped over, the deer stayed on the hood. Like the deer was stuck to the hood, like it wouldn't come off.
That's pretty funny.
It was really mad at that driver.
Yeah, I haven't seen too much crazy stuff like that. I've seen like weird like animation where like a character's arm will just start like swinging around out of nowhere. I saw one character go into like the mocap state where they do like the cross or whatever, and that's pretty common in a lot of games that aren't particularly polished. But I've just seen like weird like lighting glitches where the shadows like turn on and off and textures flicker in and out, and
that's unusual for this generation so far.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised to see some of that stuff, to be honest with you. Again, because the promotional media for this game has been so polished and it's looked so stunning, I was disappointed in the visuals in this game, actually, once I started playing it on my actual TV after, I had seen it at trade shows a couple times and played it a little bit, but you know how those things are. It's like really hard to get an idea, and there's always weird lights like flashing on the TV, and so your impression at things like that is always maybe a little bit tainted by the environment that you're in. But yeah, firing it up on my TV in my living room, like it wasn't as good looking as I thought it was going to be. And I'm sure the PC version looks a lot better than the PS4 version. Frame rate's pretty good. It gets a little chuggy here and there. Not as bad as Fallout 4. Definitely not even close to Fallout 4, honestly. But it does get a little murky at times, like the gameplay. The one thing I would say about Just Cause 3... there's been lots of open world games that have come out this year. You've got Metal Gear Solid, and more recently you have Assassin's Creed Syndicate. This is a different kind of open world game. Like, both of those had like a theme. Phantom Pain, stealth, which I honestly hardly ever use. Like, I usually just killed everyone with my gun and then ran in and like took over. And then Assassin's Creed, obviously, it's a little bit about stealth, but it's more about traversal and the environment and things like that. Just Cause 3 is a lot like Grand Theft Auto. Like, there's a lot of vehicle play involved. There's skydiving, and it's got the grapple hook, which kind of sets it apart from all the other ones, and destruction is kind of its forte. But, a lot of open world games haven't really played like Grand Theft Auto, and this is one that does. And so I feel like for a lot of people, this will be an open world game that they'll like if they didn't like the Phantom Pain and they didn't like Syndicate. This is more of your traditional, like, old school open world game where it's all about mayhem and things like that. So the other thing I would say about this game is that it's not for everybody. And I feel like people who like games like Assassin's Creed and even Phantom Pain to an extent, where the game kind of creates the fun for you, this game doesn't do that. Like, this game is a lot more reliant upon you kind of messing around with the tools. And so if you're not the type of player who buys Grand Theft Auto and spends the first 10 hours just running people over and jumping off of ramps and pulling off crazy stunts, or if you're really just the kind of person who play Grand Theft Auto and then just stop when you finish the game and don't go back and like mess around in the world, then I think you're going to be pretty disappointed in Just Cause 3, because that's really where a lot of the fun is derived from this, is its sandbox and just messing around with it. And as this game stays out there for a long time, you're going to see crazy videos, I guarantee it, of people pulling off nutty stunts and just... And that's the one thing I would say about it, is that even more than Grand Theft Auto, the tools that they give you to do that type of stuff are a lot more fun and a lot more flexible and a lot more varied.
I've already had some friends who are in just a cutthroat competition to see who can stay on top of the leaderboard for most time in the wingsuit.
Yeah.
Like, I guess it's like there's a leaderboard for the longest flight in the wingsuit, and they're like taking helicopters up to the top of the skybox and like jumping out and like holding back and going out as slow as they can, and then using the grappling hook to like launch themselves up more. It's like getting like into in like an hour-long flight thing now. So clearly, if you want to make your own fun, this is probably the open world choice.
Well, actually, you should probably tell your friends. We curated a brief guide to Sifted yesterday that teaches you how to perpetually glide. So maybe you should just tell one of your friends.
Okay, with the favorite friend.
Then extort him for $20. I'd tell him to go bet his friend $50 on who can set the record. So, yeah, there's a way that you can just perpetually glide. I haven't even tried that yet. I'm just trying to get through the game at this point. And it is a big, big game. I'm probably 10 or 12 hours in, and I don't really see any end in sight at this point.
So are you following the story, or are you just doing side stuff, or like... Because I remember Just Cause 2, like, there were like 5 story missions.
Yeah.
And like the rest of it was just open world, run around, do the same thing a dozen times thing.
Well, one thing I would say is that I generally do fall into the group of people who play games like this, and when the campaign is over, like, I quit and I don't really go back. And so, but I will say with this one, I have been more apt to just mess around. And, I mean, I've been playing it for 10 or 12 hours, and mostly playing through the campaign, so, you know, and it's still going. Right. So, it's not short. I mean, even just playing through the campaign. I mean, with games like this, you could, if you're inclined, you could literally get, you know, people are still playing Grand Theft Auto 5, so, and just messing around.
People are still playing Just Cause 2.
Exactly, yeah. And again, so when you have those tools, it's a lot more likely that you're going to get staying power out of it.
The main thing the thing that stopped me from playing Just Cause 2 longer than I did was that you'd go to blow up the, you know, everything was blow up the base, blow everything up the base.
No, it's the same thing.
And but there was always one thing, one transformer, one antenna that was missing. You know, that 8% destruction thing, and you had no idea where to look, where to find it, and so I heard in this one, like, it actually tells you all the different things you need to destroy, and like you can look at the map to see where it is if you're missing one thing or something.
Does, yeah.
So that fixes my main complaint with Just Cause 2. So I'm excited to play it. I just I couldn't pull the $60 trigger on a game that was being so widely technologically slammed.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing I would say is that, you know, I'm about 12 hours into the game at this point, and it's starting to wear a little thin because the mission objectives are nowhere near as varied as like a Grand Theft Auto game.
Right.
And the characters in the game are nowhere near as likable or well written. The story itself isn't really all that interesting. You're just kind of this kooky guy who's known for being kooky, and you need to go out and be kooky. Like, that's pretty much the whole setup for the game. Yeah, it's Rico. I mean, if you've played the other games, you kind of get the gist of it. So, you know, at about 12 hours, it's starting to wane on me a little bit. Again, I'm not the guy who goes out and tries to do crazy stunts and things like that. I generally just kind of play through these games. And, you know, I've read a couple reports that the game is about 30 hours long or something like that. And so at the point I'm at in the game already where it's starting to wear thin, like, those last 10 hours could really kind of turn out to be a grind. But again, I think, you know, there's certain people who buy these games and they don't even really care about the campaign. They're like, how many vehicles are there? And, you know, how flexible, in this game's case, is the grapple hook. And I mean, it is completely flexible. Like, the grapple hook you can use at any time, anywhere, as long as there's something to attach it to, and that's where the fun in the game comes in. It's like,
can you still do the I've fallen for 4,000 feet, but as long as I grapple to the ground?
Oh yeah,
I'm
safe. I mean, there's stuff like that, and like the parachute, like you can open it and close it at any time, so you can basically free fall from a plane, and when you're 40 feet from the ground, just tap the chute, and you'll keep from dying. Your fall will be broken. But I think that's good. Like again, it's like they don't put on the Ritz, so to speak, with this game and try to say it's anything but what it is, which I kind of admire. You know, all the promotional media was right on target. It showed stuff blowing up, and that's really what this game is about, blowing crap up. Like, blowing crap up and clearing out outposts. That's pretty much what it all comes down to. Yeah, exactly. Now, as far as like the gameplay is concerned, like the aiming's kind of janky. Like, there's no aim down sights or anything like that, and the auto aim's like crazy generous. Like, like you go to aim and like you could have your reticle like 20 feet away from a guy and it like snaps right on him. I mean, and again, that's a lot like Grand Theft Auto. Like, it's not really about being precise with your shooting and things like that. It's more like a means to an end, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty solid follow-up to the last one.
Yeah.
Where, like, you know, that one wasn't very, you know, you could take a lot of hits in that one. I mean, you could probably go, like, you know, one man against an entire army base and, like, maybe you might get half your life taken off.
Oh, it's hard to die in this game.
Yeah.
But they'd have to make it that way because of all the crazy stuff that you can do. If you were dying, like, every time something blew up next to you, like, you just saw right there, like, that car blew up right next to him and he was like, 'tis a mere flesh wound. So,
like, I remember Red Faction Guerrilla, I remember, like, people used to play that on easy, and even the developers were like, yeah, we made it too hard.
Yeah.
Because the game was like so encouraged, like this physics in that game encouraged so much like experimentation. But the game, like normal on that game, was like too hard to survive in to do anything cool. So even the developers were like, just play it on easy. We fucked it up.
Yeah. Well, the problem is when you're making games like this is that the people that are testing them are so good at them.
Right.
It's really hard to, like, unless you have the budget and you're constantly bringing in focus testers to play it, who are going to be like, dude, this is way too much.
There's a Christmas story about that idea that I've always wondered. That was in a book long ago written by J.C. Hertz called Joystick Nation, and she tells a story of like it was a Sega game. They don't name the game. She doesn't name the game, but she says a Sega game, and it was delayed and it went through testing so often and so regularly. The testers kept getting so good at it. They kept saying, "Make it harder, make it harder, make it harder," and so they kept making it harder. But the game was like for kids. It was supposed to be like a younger eighth. And Christmas, it came out right in time for Christmas. And Christmas morning, like children were crying and couldn't get past level 1 and stuff. And like it was returned in like record numbers because parents like said the kids were just like angry at it and couldn't complete even like a 1 level. And I've always wondered what game that was.
I've not heard that story.
My theory was that it was Mickey Mania because that was really hard, but I don't know what it was. But I've always wondered which game that actually was.
This game is not like that.
No, it doesn't sound like it.
It's not.
You don't see games like that very often.
No, not anymore. I mean, except
not unless that's their gimmick.
Like with Souls and Bloodborne and stuff like that, where that's kind of its thing. But this game is really easy. Like, you have to try to die pretty much in this game, which, again, I think is the right call. I think if you're going to give people these tools to fiddle around with that could kill you if you do one stupid thing wrong, then that's probably the way you need to set up your health system. But, the melee in the game is pretty janky and broken, and...
I mean, I don't think, if you have experience with this series, I don't think any of that stuff's surprising.
Yeah.
I mean, I really could use some just mindless explosions right now.
That's what it is.
But
here's the thing. Like, I've been looking at a lot of the reviews for it, and like the reviews, I feel like I've been giving it a pass on a lot of stuff. I mean, a couple reviews have taken it to task and said, "Oh, I'm doing the same thing over and over, and it wore on me or whatever." But some of the scores have been really high for this, and I just finished up our game eval for Black Ops 3, and I was looking at some of like the graphics scores for this game, and I was looking at Black Ops 3, and Black Ops 3 just blows it out of the water. Like, they're not even in the same class graphically. And, like, a lot of people really thought the graphics in this game were great. So, one thing I guess I would say is as you wait for our game eval to come out for this game, maybe take some of the other reviews with a grain of salt. I don't think anyone has kind of zeroed in on this game as, like, this is one of the games I'm buying for the holidays. Like, I don't think it's one of those things where people are, like, itching to go out and buy it. Like, they're probably still getting through Fallout 4, or they're still playing Battlefront, or maybe even Black Ops 3 or whatever. So they probably still have other stuff they're playing, and maybe they're looking at this as like the supplemental game that they get for the holidays or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I just want to wait and see what the patches do for it first.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I would say about getting this game for the PC, which I would recommend, is that the mods for this game are likely going to be insane. Like, already what they've given you, like, just being able to set up scenarios in a mod with what they give you is great. But imagine once people really start digging in and, like, recoding stuff. And, I mean, you look at what they did with Grand Theft Auto 5, or what they're still doing with Grand Theft Auto 5, and I think about the possibilities of Just Cause 3, and I think it could be, like, incredible.
Yeah.
Although they keep churning out those, like, crazy videos for Fallout 4 where it's like...
the 30,000 death clauses.
Yeah, that was one that came out, like, yesterday. It's so funny. Every time I curate one of those, I'm like, okay, surely this is the last one. Because I think we've curated, like, 10 of them so far. And then there was 30,000. And I was like, well, 30,000! That one's going on the site. And it was worth it. It's awesome. So they'll be doing crazy stuff with Just Cause 3, I guarantee. I don't know if they'll hit those kind of... benchmarks. Like that guy's computer, how did it just not melt?
I don't know.
30,000.
To be fair, it is a pretty old engine.
Yeah, it is, but still. I mean, if you think about the fact that like Fallout 4 runs like that roughly when it's just one Deathclaw.
Right.
On the PC version, he's got 30,000 of them.
Ooh.
Somehow, some way.
Got a stack of Titan X's in
Yeah,
there.
he must have quite a rig there. So, I guess one thing I would say to people thinking about buying this is just wait. Play the games that you're playing right now.
That would be my advice to you. Don't. Hang on.
Yeah, I think maybe it's a little bit overrated right now. Maybe as more reviews start coming out, it'll drop a little bit.
I feel like for me, I think this is going to end up being like a post Christmas sort of price drop purchase.
It's not one of those games like the 1 year Far Cry. I think it was Far Cry 3. Came out on like December 20th or something like that. And then I remember the whole year after that, a lot of people were like, oh, it sucks. It got stiffed for the Game of the Year awards because it came out after the deadline. This isn't going to be one of those games. Right. People are like, oh, you totally screwed Just Cause 3.
That was my last review for G4.
Oh, really?
Far Cry 3.
Oh, yeah?
I basically put the period on that and walked out the door.
It's a great game. I really enjoyed it.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
But people were right, ultimately, though, that like when the Game of the Year awards rolled around for the next year, like everybody pretty much forgot about it.
Yeah.
Like it probably deserved to like get some accolades because it was a really fun game. But
everything, I mean, movies do that. That happens to movies, happens to TV shows.
And look, the publishers know when the cutoff is for Game of the Year. They know what's going to happen when they release a game in December or late December. They know it's not going to get considered, and so they take that into account, and they're like, well, we're going to ship it anyway. So to me, it's on them. You shouldn't be pissed off at like the websites who finally have to cut off their deadline for Game of the Year. You should be upset at the publisher for releasing it so late, knowing what was going to happen.
Just like Xenoblade is going to probably miss some deadlines on that too.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, most people have reviewed it by now.
They did send it out early enough.
Yeah, I mean, I've had it for a couple weeks now, and I wish I had got started on it earlier. I mean, I knew it was going to be a big game, but like, I didn't know it was going to be. I did know it was going to be this big. I just didn't have that enough time to review it in time. Like,
there's been a lot of big, long games this year.
I can't put 40 hours into a game in a week. I have too many other things that I have to do. So,
how many like 40-hour games have been this year that were like major players? I'd say at least 7 or 8.
Yeah, and the other problem too is that like if you try to get freelancers to review games like that, they just say no. Mm-hmm. Because freelancers, the way, I mean, we do kind of scale what we pay our freelancers. Like if for big RPGs and stuff like that, we do give them more. But it's still not worth it. Because the way they look at it is like their time is money. And they could review this other game that's 11 hours long and get paid 80% of what they would get paid to play that 60, 70-hour JRPG. Mm-hmm. So it's really hard to find freelancers to tackle that kind of stuff. So
you couldn't pay me enough to review Xenoblade.
You sure you don't want to review Xenoblade?
No way.
I can shuffle it off onto you. I'm already so far into it that it would be pointless to give it to somebody else at this point. But yeah, for now, I would say hold off on Just Cause 3. You probably have other stuff to play that's really good right now. I would even say probably play more, even if you finish Fallout 4, go back and play some side missions, because some of the side missions that you dig up in Fallout 4 are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
I think the side missions are better than the main stories. So.
You do stumble across some... Here we are talking about Fallout 4 again, by the way.
Again.
But you stumble across some crazy stuff in that game.
I'll tell you, I have not played Fallout 4 in... God, when did I stop playing Fallout? I stopped playing Fallout 4 the day Battlefront came out, and I haven't played it since.
Wow. You haven't finished it?
No.
What faction did you sign up with?
Well, I signed up with the Brotherhood of Steel.
I ditched them. I didn't.
But I don't like them very much.
I don't either. I thought they were jerks.
I'm going to see what... I haven't gotten to the Institute yet, but I'm going to see what they have to say.
Yeah.
I'll decide what I think, because I think the Institute guys look pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like androids.
We'll see.
I don't know. I also know that the achievement for like finishing both of those faction quests is like exclusive. So like, if you finish one, the other one won't talk to you anymore. So you have to like do the save. You'll save juggling. There.
Yeah. Well, by the time I finished that game, I had literally like 300 saves or something.
So far, the Brotherhood of Steel seems like a bunch of jerks. So
yeah, I felt that way too.
I mostly just want their power armor.
They were too bossy.
I hope I get a chance to kill that one guy and get his power armor. That's basically what I'm after right now.
All right, let's get back on topic and to the second topic of the Big Six. We're going to talk about the Game Awards. Jeff Keighley's next sort of transformation, amalgamation of the Spike VGAs.
The second annual,
right? Last year, and we're seeing some footage of it from last year. Pretty much unanimous praise for the show. I think some people said maybe it was a little too long. Some people said that there were too many world premieres, which is kind of hard to...
It's a weird choice. It was nice to see Marty get something there.
Well, my favorite part of the show was how they did the whole music thing. Was it Imagine Dragons that they had in the show?
Imagine Dragons was the big finale, yeah.
Yeah, with one of the Nintendo's composers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my favorite part of the whole show. I think the other complaint was that they didn't give enough awards away on stage. That has always been an issue with video game award shows. It probably always will be.
Yeah. I thought there were a couple of strange choices in there, especially it was very heavily favored Nintendo.
Yeah.
In a weird way. Like, Best Developer Nintendo was a very strange choice last year, I thought.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of other developers that were, like, on point.
Here's the thing with Nintendo, though, is that it puts out so many games every year. It's like most developers put out one, maybe two, if they have like 3 teams.
But Nintendo's got a bunch of different teams, too. It's not like they've got one guy doing everything.
Right, but here's the thing. It's like if you're just giving if you just give an award for best developer to the developer that made the best game, then the award's no different than the Game of the Year award.
Well, that's the argument. That's exactly the argument that goes around about best director versus best picture.
Right.
So it's like, that's kind of the game equivalent of that.
Yeah.
So it's a valid question.
Yeah.
Like, what's the difference?
Right. So maybe you drop.
Or how can the best developer, how can the best director not make the best game best picture?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
How are you the best director creator of a thing and you didn't create the best thing?
Yeah.
You know,
it's like a little weird. Yeah. Well, no, I could kind of see it with films though. with just the direction of the film. Like, the film may not be great, the writing may not be good, but how it was directed was good.
Yeah.
Like, I can...
Well, yeah, because that's why developer is sort of a broader category than director.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting question.
Yep. And so, actually, the video we were just watching, if you could hear what Keeley was saying, he was talking about a lot of the complaints people had about last year's show and how they're addressing them this year. Again, big musical guests at this year's show. Deadmau5. Are you familiar with Deadmau5?
Oh, yeah.
Some people on Sifted were not. I was shocked to see that some people were like, who's Deadmau5?
Okay.
He may be like yesterday's EDM news now.
Yeah, he's not cutting edge anymore, but I certainly remember him.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that he wears like the big mouse head on
Yeah.
stage, I figured at least people would be like, oh yeah, I've seen pictures of that guy or whatever. But yeah, a couple of them were like, I've never even heard of Deadmau5. So Deadmau5 is there. There's one other musical act that's performing. I can't remember. Oh, Churches, who are great. And so the hope is that and Churches is almost, it's like borderline chiptune band. They're kind of like electro new wave or whatever, but they do have a chiptune kind of sound to them. So the hope is that they do what they did last year, where they do collaborations with other artists who actually make video game music and things like that. So I'm hoping they do something cool there. And the after party has like Skrillex. Like Jeff has spent a lot of money on this show, man. A lot. Like I know Skrillex alone, if he plays a 2-hour set, is like $50,000. So he is definitely spared no expense. It looked like he got a couple sponsors for the show this year, which is good, and which should help a little bit. It's being held in LA this year instead of in Las Vegas, where it was last year. I'm definitely going. I'll be there tomorrow night to support Jeff, and hopefully the show goes great. Let's talk a little bit about the stuff that he's announced so far. So the first thing that kind of came out, or this is actually a rumor, I don't think this has been official yet, but they're saying Ace Combat 7 is one of the games that they're saying is probably going to be debuted at the Game Awards. Matt, do we need another Ace Combat?
I love Ace Combat.
Do you?
So yeah, I'll take any Ace Combat you want to throw at me.
Really?
Is it like headline world premiere news? Probably not. But I love like dogfighting, planes, jet fighter stuff. So yeah,
See, I always feel like
I'm
those
glad
games
it's still here.
just
But
end up in, even going back to like Star Fox. Like I just always feel like they just end up in this endless loop of people doing circles chasing after each other.
well, that's only if you don't know what you're doing.
Right, but that's the way most game players are. Like,
Yeah, but that just means I'm going to destroy
You're gonna crush
your
'em,
ass.
yeah.
Like, I mean, it's. I grew up playing, the X-wing and Wing Commander and Strike Commander and Falcon 4.0 and all that stuff.
I mean,
and
flight
love all that
sims used to
stuff.
be huge.
Oh yeah,
They're like,
And,
it's a dead genre now.
Oh yeah, but I love all that stuff, and any chance to bring it back under a modern banner to something that looks good is great. I'm all for it, and I love Ace Combat's like ridiculous, batshit crazy stories, and
they went more in that direction over the last couple releases.
oh yeah,
That's
six
really
six
been,
was off in crazy town.
Yeah.
Like, it was just amazing,
and just the focus too. The focus
Yeah.
is clearly on the story now, which I think is probably the smart move.
Yeah. Well, except for that one, the free-to-play one on PlayStation was just mostly grinding,
Yeah.
like online grinding. There was some cool missions in it, but it was way too free-to-play-y.
Yeah.
Because it was free-to-play, but it was just, you had that feeling of like, I'm not getting anything done here. It's like you had to earn fuel units every like 5 hours or something to spend to play missions, and there was a couple cool things. There was like a Godzilla tie-in where like, when that terrible Godzilla PS4 game came out, there was a Godzilla tie-in where like, randomly during missions, Mechagodzilla or Godzilla would appear in the city, and you had to like, everybody had to like break off and like attack Godzilla, and that was pretty awesome. But like, so yeah, little things like there's cool things. But I'd be super happy to see it come back to the like a story, one of those batshit crazy stories in the alternate universe where everybody's got all the different planes in our universe. That I enjoy Ace Combat a lot for what it is.
The other thing I would say too is that they're amazing looking games.
Yes, they've always been amazing looking.
Because you fly so quickly, you don't have time to see that the ground and the buildings on the ground aren't all that detailed.
Mm-hmm.
So they can use all those polygons and everything else on the planes, and the skyboxes always look incredible. And
of course, the Idolmaster plane decals, which I believe to this day are Namco's top-selling DLC.
Wow.
For that series.
Holy cow.
Is the and the Idolmaster things were like 3 times what the other plane skins cost. Like, Idolmaster is a force, a DLC
in
force.
Japan, for sure, without a doubt. Idolmaster is huge there. So, I would agree with you, though. It's not a huge debut.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with it, but it's
Yeah.
like, I can't imagine a lot more people than just me are happy with it. It's like,
Yeah.
For me, I'm like, oh, yeah, Ace Combat, but I feel like the majority of the audience will be like, the what? Who?
Yeah.
7 of them.
Well, I think people know. I think people know.
They know, but I don't think they care.
Yeah, and it's not going to cause Twitter to go crazy when it's shown.
As long as it's better than Assault Horizon, that's all I ask.
Yeah,
that one was terrible.
That's what we were just showing, actually, footage of Assault Horizon. So the next we're going to talk about is Far Cry Primal. They're going to show the gameplay debut for that, although I feel like we've kind of seen that already, the trailers.
A little bit, but I'll gladly see more.
Yeah, I'll gladly, for sure. I mean, that was one of my favorite games that have been unveiled probably in the last half of the year. I'm really excited for that. I would like to be a lot more excited if it had dinosaurs, I think.
But yeah, well...
Unfortunately, the time period that it's set in does not allow for that. So at least I'm actually kind of wondering how it's all that different from other Far Cries. Like, there's no guns,
here's the thing.
I guess.
Well, here's the thing. If you look at it, like, because
there's elephants in Far Cry already.
Right. It's like you get Far Cry 4 versus this. Clearly, they just they retextured a bunch of animals from Far Cry 4, and now they're prehistoric versions of themselves.
Right. Because there were tigers.
Now they're saber-toothed tigers, and now the elephants are mammoths, and now I'm sure something can be adapted into a giant sloth. And, and there were glyptodonts, the giant armadillo things. So so yeah, I mean, there's some fun stuff happening there, but it's not dinosaurs.
No, and the other thing too is that they're taking guns away, obviously, so you're stuck with spears and bows. Does that wear thin quickly?
I don't know.
I know some people love bows in games.
I love the bow in Far Cry. Far Cry is a bow game to me.
Yeah.
Unless I'm forced to switch over to something against a harder target.
Right.
But no, I'm into it. I'll give it. I mean, it's there. With this and Blood Dragon, it seems like Far Cry from now on has okay, here's our numbered one, and here's our kind of crazy outside of the box idea using the engine and the assets. Yeah. So Far Cry 3 had Blood Dragon, now Far Cry 4 has Primal. So that's a trend I'll encourage.
And this is one thing that I think will light up Twitter. And probably will make a splash as people being able to watch the first gameplay of it. And it's sold pretty well. I mean, they usually do really well for Ubisoft. I think. And
at least it's not. I mean, it looks like there's actually more Stone Age stuff popping up now. Yeah. But this is kind of the first out of the gate. It's not. This isn't a time period that's really been explored much.
Yep, it's true. So excited. I think we both agree. We're really excited for that.
I hope we get to make a Flintstones car at some point.
Where you use your feet to propel it. The next thing that was announced was Oculus has a big announcement at the Game Awards.
Release date, price?
Maybe both. Maybe they've got a big-time developer to create an exclusive game for it, because to me that's what they really need at this point.
Grand Theft Auto 6.
I mean, that would just be...
That, houses would fall.
Oh, yeah. The internet would break. More than Kim Kardashian's butt, the internet would break if that were the case. But they need a killer app for this.
Yeah.
There's been lots of cool little stuff, and, we've said on the show before that, the killer app for VR is trying VR.
Right.
When you first try it, it's, pretty mind-blowing when you use it for the first time. But eventually that wears off, and if you're trying to convince people who may not get a chance to try it out before they go to buy it, that they should buy this thing, I feel like you need a AAA game from a developer that's known to make AAA games.
Yeah.
And, Keighley knows what hot stuff is, and he's not going to let Oculus trot out there if they're just going to show off some stupid little platformer or whatever. They're going to have something that's going to really raise a ruckus. And so that's pretty exciting. Then you wonder with Sony with PlayStation VR, they're,
PSX. Do they have an answer at PSX?
Happens this weekend. And
fingers crossed for Yakuza 5 drop. Come on, people. It's supposed to be out by the end of the year.
And I wonder, how that has affected Jeff booking stuff for the Game Awards, because Sony obviously needs to make a big splash with its show, and so I'm guessing there might be some
crossover.
Yeah, I mean there might be some tension too between the Game Awards and PlayStation Experience, because
they maneuver around that when when E3 time comes and the press. Ubi's got their stuff in their press conference. They show a different aspect of that same game at Sony or Microsoft or whatever. They dance around that pretty regularly.
But I'm sure Jeff wanted to get some PlayStation VR in, and maybe he mentions, Oculus is doing something here, and then maybe they're like, well, we want this to be. Who knows? But it looks like Oculus is going to be the VR of note at the Game Awards, so we can look forward to something with that. Here's something really cool that they're doing. They're doing a tribute to Westwood. And I think was it 2 episodes ago we were answering questions, and they asked us what studio, was it last week maybe? They asked us what studio had been closed down that you wish hadn't been closed down, and my pick was Westwood. And then literally 2 or 3 days later, the announcement for the Game Awards comes out saying that they're doing a big tribute to Westwood. What is it called?
The Industry Icon
Industry
Award?
Icon Award, yeah. So, well-deserved. I think we can all agree. Right now we're watching,
sure.
I think this is Red Alert 2.
Yep. I remember
the gods of FMV.
I remember in the 90s, back in the olden days, one of my friends from high school got a job working on M-Player, which was the first like subscription multiplayer service for games, and it was.
I don't even remember it.
Most people don't. It was absorbed into GameSpy Arcade somewhere around 2001. But at the time, it was like a robust like front end and everything, and you could play. You paid a subscription for it was like $39.95 a year or something, and you got to play all these different games. And one of them they had a lot of Command and Conquer. So Command and Conquer used to be what he tested on, and I remember we'd just sit there and like play Command and Conquer over and over, trying to break the M-Player thing, and it was it was a good time. And every once in a while, you run into someone that knew what that was and played it, and it was like, oh, that was the greatest, because it was like kind of like Sifted in a sense. It was like a smaller community of people that kind of knew their stuff,
right?
And like had to go out and find it a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was a good time, and it was fond memories. It was mostly Westwood games I played on that.
Well, the crazy thing is that FMV is like kind of coming back now.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's not like VR or anything. It's literally just straight up FMV. Have you played that game, Her Story?
No, I've seen it. Like because she's nominated in the Game Awards.
Yeah, I mean it's.
Mark Hamill's going to win it, but she's nominated.
But it's kind of cool to see what a lot of people thought was like this olden technology and kind of a dinosaur come and make a comeback.
Somebody call me when Road Adventure 2's out.
I mean, I feel like there's definitely like a different kind of appeal to games with FMV. I feel like they're a little more personal. They're obviously Uncanny Valley is completely avoided because it's real footage. There's also obviously huge limitations with the medium as well, and so as long
not
as
a lot of people with fond memories of Sewer Shark.
No, or Night Trap, or pretty much any of the
I guess
iconic.
Mad Dog McCree has its fans.
Yeah. But otherwise, it was one of those things where people are like, it's gone, and I'm pretty much okay that it's gone.
Yeah, I'm right there with them on that, really, along with pre-rendered backgrounds.
Yeah.
I don't need to see those again.
And I will say another thing, too. I was kind of doing research before we came on the show to talk about this, and I was just kind of looking back on the games that Westwood has made, and it really hasn't made a game in a long time.
Well, yeah.
It has been gone, like, not making games for, like, forever.
Oh, yeah. EA's Trail of Bodies stretches far into the past.
It sure does, for sure. So... appropriate. I'm really excited for them. They totally deserved.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see who they actually bring.
And they haven't gotten a lot of recognition. You see a lot of like kind of retro awards, kind of stuff like that. But I can't recall Westwood getting a lot of love in that regard.
Jeff is an old PC gamer. That's where it all started for him. He was like a big PC guy growing up, and that's kind of where he kind of staked his first claim, was like working in games journalism for PC games, and so it's got a soft spot in his heart. So I can totally understand why this is the game that he chose, or the studio that he chose to kind of feature.
It's a legit choice for sure.
Yep. And then just to kind of round out what they've announced so far, here's the other thing I would say, is it seems like at last year's show that by now we knew about a lot more of the show than we do for this year's show.
Yeah, this is a bit of... I actually was again surprised when you mentioned like, oh, it's this week, because I was like,
was tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're watching this on Sifted, it's today.
Yeah.
Because only the people that are watching it live is tomorrow. It's on Thursday. So yeah, it's coming up real quick. I mean, this is pretty much all the stuff that's been announced so far. And I feel like last year we already knew about like 10 things, and then there were 10 like secret things. There was some other thing that was mentioned where there is like some debuts, like literally the first time you'll ever see a game. But like, I guess the one studio didn't even want his name like mentioned in it to ruin the surprise, so he wasn't able to promote that. I mean, stuff like this is a big deal if you're floating the money for the show yourself, like Jeff has, and funding it yourself, and you're trying to get it hyped so people show up. Because obviously you have sponsors, you have targets you need as far as traffic to satisfy those, and there may be written into the deal that like X number of people need to watch this online. So you get the full amount that was agreed to in the marketing plan. So there's a lot riding on this. And so it's a little surprising that there hasn't been more. I mean, the other thing, there's a new Mortal Kombat character that's going to be announced. That was another thing that kind of came out. So I have full faith that Jeff is going to deliver an awesome show. And all of you guys should watch the show, for sure. Support Jeff. Support this idea. Just like you support Sifted. And you're supporting something that's a new idea and something that you believe in, you should support Jeff's award show. He broke away from Viacom He's trying to make it less corporate. I feel like he did a good job last year with it. I feel like it was something that we could all be proud of as gamers, and support it. Make sure you guys watch this. Obviously, we'll have a link to the live stream on Sifted. It is on YouTube. So if you go to youtube.com tomorrow evening, I think it starts at 6 Pacific, I believe.
Sounds right. I'm not sure.
Early evening Pacific, mid-evening East Coast. If you're in Europe, good luck. It'll probably be like 4 or 5 in the morning for you there. But we will have the live stream running on Sifted. So worst case scenario, just come to Sifted. You'll be able to watch it with all the fellow Sifters. And then we'll also be curating all the media, because as it airs in the show, then the media gets put up on the internet from all the publishers and on the official YouTube channel for the Game Awards, and we'll be curating that stuff. So it's going to be a big night. Mm-hmm. I mean, even if you can't watch the award show live, make sure you check out Sifted tomorrow night, because we will have everything archived so you can check it all out later. It'll be a big day on the site for everyone. So we wish Jeff the best of luck. Again, I implore you to watch the show. It's good for everybody that you do. The show's going to be good. I can pretty much promise you that. And it's just good for the industry to support independent stuff like this when people are going out on a limb and really risking a lot to bring you guys something that you want. Because let's be honest, this is something people have asked for. They've wanted a legit award show run by gamers that isn't influenced by Hollywood and all the garbage that goes along with it. And this is it. So support it. I think we'll all be better for it in the long run. Agreed?
One of these award shows has to catch on at some point. Might as well be this one.
Well, what else is there? There's the DICE Awards, but that's way too stiff.
It's very inside. There's the GDC. I mean, the GDC Awards are probably the closest thing to the Oscars in terms of like the industry picking its own honorees, but like it's not. You know, the GDC Awards are never going to be what the Oscars are.
They're boring. I mean, honestly.
Well, so are the Oscars.
Exactly. Like I don't watch the Oscars. Like I literally don't watch it. Like my wife will go in the back bedroom and she'll watch it while I have the TV playing games. Like
I like it because I bet on it. But you know,
you bet on the Oscars?
Oh yeah, I've been watching. I'm a film nut. I've been watching the Oscars forever.
Yeah. How often are you right?
Really often.
Oh really?
Oh yeah.
So it's easier to bet on than football, I guess.
Oh yeah.
I don't bet on sports.
If you go to an Oscar party this year, folks, Spotlight's winning Best Picture. I'm just telling you right now.
Ex Machina, it should be.
Not even
I know.
A shot in the dark.
I know.
Not a
the
chance.
movies that I care about never win. That's just the way it is. So
sometimes that's a way to tell you're sane.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah.
I think an award show that incorporates a lot of news and a lot of reveals and new stuff is probably the way to go for this industry, because that's so much of like, you know, what's next, what's new, what's coming is so important to games that like it makes sense to kind of mix that in with the awards for stuff we've already played.
Well, people always ask for the Oscars. They want this very stiff, people in tuxedos, the whole team going up, getting the award, making the speech, slowly walking back while they play the music. While they're making the speech, the music comes on, telling them to get the hell off the stage.
I feel like that's just like a desire to see, you know, the
legitimacy,
legitimized in the same way that we see these other mediums being legitimate. And I just don't think that you have to do the same thing as everybody else.
I don't either, and I don't want them to. I don't want an award show like that. I won't watch it. I like movies. I love movies. I don't watch the Oscars.
Well, I certainly wouldn't go to this if I had to wear a tux.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
Right, and look, I would agree that the VGAs, and full disclosure, I worked on the VGAs for 7 years, so I know the whole production inside and out and everything that goes into it and why decisions are made or not made. And I would agree with you 1,000,000%. The VGAs were the other direction way too far. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like Jeff Jeff worked on the VGAs before I got there. He was working on them before I got to Viacom and MTV. So he knows what he's doing. He's listened to people. He and I, when we were at Viacom, we were the people in the meeting saying, we're telling you, like, if you want gamers to show up and watch this is what you need to do. And they say, great. We know you guys know what you're talking about. Thanks, Jeff and Shane. We'd leave. We come to the next production meeting, and they had just completely ignored. Like, and a lot of it is money and marketing deals.
Yeah,
and they need a certain kind of show to get marketers to sign up for the show.
We also worked on G4. We know.
Yep, and I worked on G4. I ran remember I did the award.
You did the pre-show. I did the post-show with Jeff Keighley. Jeff Keighley was in my post-show.
Yep. Yeah.
That was good times. We had a great time doing that show because your show was super heavily controlled because you had to do all the business.
It was all pre-shot and everything, yeah.
But it was super high production.
Yeah.
You had all the hosts.
That's the biggest budget I ever had to produce anything.
I had literally no budget.
Yeah. We still tied it together though. We found a thread where we had the hand puppet. Like I noticed game trailers now has like this little like Ratty hand puppet, but we had literally a hand puppet named Ratty.
Yeah.
And what year was that?
That was 2005.
2005. Yeah, 2006. We had a little Ratty hand puppet, and it was at the post show where you had the hand puppet from like the top. Yeah, he literally parachuted from like 20 stories up down.
Bobby Burns, head of the camera department or whatever. I don't remember what.
Who I then brought over to Game Trailers.
But he like spent 2 days rigging that lipstick cam to get the POV shot for that. It was amazing. Like everybody just like pulled together, and it was great times.
Yeah.
But it wasn't much of an award show.
No, it wasn't. Yeah.
We had a good time.
Yeah, we had a blast. Yeah. I love making. Anyway, I think we're flying off the rails here, but
we got to put William Shatner in a show. It was fun.
Yeah. Bottom line is, Jeff's show is going to be better than the G4 that we worked on.
Probably fewer puppets parachuting in.
Yeah.
Maybe. Maybe. Muppets showed up at Nintendo E3 this year.
True.
We don't know.
That's right.
We don't know what's going to happen.
And it's going to be better than the VGAs that Jeff and I worked on. I can promise you that, because I know Jeff is in total control of it, and he's going to be able to do exactly what he wanted all along. So support the Game Awards, people. It's really important. If you do one thing this week to help the gaming industry, it's watch that show.
And everybody's going to be talking about it anyway, so you might as well be current.
Yep. And like I said, if you can't watch it live for work or whatever reasons, come on Sifted. We'll have all that stuff archived. And make sure you watch the official videos for Jeff's YouTube channel as well. Instead of all these scumbags on YouTube are going to skim all the videos and post them. That's the worst. And that's going to happen. Jeff is going to lose a ton of revenue to these little YouTube channels that are recording it live and posting it to their channels. Before he'll have time to get it up on his. So we're going to definitely make a concerted effort to curate from Jeff's official channel, or worst case scenario from the publisher's channels, to make sure that the right people are getting the revenue for it.
Who was the industry icon last year? Was that Roberta Williams?
I don't even remember. I don't remember at all.
I want to say it was Sierra.
I don't remember. It wouldn't surprise me, though. Like I said, Jeff's a big PC guy, so I could see why he'd recognize them 2 years in a row. But anyway, watch that damn show. It's time to move on to the next topic, which is Rainbow Six Siege. So this game's been out a couple days.
Yeah.
And there is one review for this game out there.
Really?
One. There's one review for this game on Sifted.
From whom?
Destructoid put up their review today. There was like a PC port report that we curated yesterday from, I think it was Digital Trends or something, that had basically just done a report saying how well does it run on PC, what are the settings, how does it run on the different settings, and that type of thing. It wasn't like an actual review of the game. The first review came out today, and
what'd they say?
They liked it. Yeah, Destructoid gave it a really high score, and they said that it's really low on content. And look, I've been playing it a little bit, so I can talk to this in a little bit, but they said they've been playing it, and there's not a lot of content to it, but just because of the core mechanics of it, it'll have legs and it'll have staying power. But what I was kind of getting at is that, so this game was supposed to have an open beta like a week ago. The day before actually, I think it was the day of the open beta. Ubisoft comes out and says, "Oh no, we're pushing it." This is a week before the game comes out, Matt. Think about that. Like, you cannot get your open beta to work 7 days before everyone is supposed to flood your servers from buying this game on consoles and PC. I think they pushed it back a day and a half or 2 days, and then it finally went live. And I had played the beta of this, the first round of the closed beta. I did like a Sifted Hangout for it, and I played it a ton before the Hangout. I played it a ton after the Hangout. So I've played a lot of this game. And I did get finally a review code for it, but I got it the day before it came out. And everyone's in that same boat, and that's why you're not seeing any reviews for it. And so everybody already knows this game doesn't have a campaign. It's got a very simple training mode that you can play through that kind of shows you the ropes of the game, but there's really no campaign to it. And I haven't finished the game, so obviously I'm not ready to produce our game eval for it yet. But I felt like the content was pretty low in the beta, and I felt like it was starting to get a little repetitive in the time I played the beta. And according to Destructoid, who's reviewed it already, it looks like it doesn't get any better in the final game. And this is a full-price game, might I add. This is a $60 game. And so I'm just wondering if Ubisoft was withholding the code for this game because it fears that it's not going to review well. And the other problem, too, is that there's some stiff competition out there right now. Yeah. Black Ops 3, not as good as Advanced Warfare, in my opinion, but still a great shooter, still crazy addictive. Like, I have to, when I go home tonight and the show's like rendering or whatever, I'll want to go play a couple quick rounds of Black Ops 3 or Halo 5. I mean,
yep, Halo 5 a bunch of people I know certainly didn't play this. They loaded up the Battle of Jakku.
That's what I'm saying. And there's Battlefront as well. So you have those three. I mean, those are hard hitters, dude. Those aren't like fly by night, like first person shooters. Those are games that are going to sell millions, like tens of millions of copies. And you got Ubisoft coming in here with this game that doesn't have a campaign. And look, Battlefront doesn't really have one either, but it's got Star Wars going for it. That's a big deal. And look, Halo 5's campaign wasn't amazing. It was better than Black Ops 3's campaign, though. I'll say that much.
It's better than no campaign.
And it's way better than no campaign, exactly. And so it's going to be a tough sell for Ubisoft. And so I just wonder, the other thing, too, is that like a lot of times you can kind of stealth release games like this and put it out, like say they put it out in February and just waited a couple months and put it out in February. Once we've all finished playing Black Ops and Battlefront and Halo.
Yeah, you wonder why they felt the need to get it out in December.
Well, we know why. It's because, I don't remember what the figure is, but it's something like 65% of all video game sales happen in like a 6-week period or whatever. And so,
but this?
I mean, they did the same thing with Far Cry, Ubisoft. They put it out.
Far Cry had a campaign.
Right, and a very good one. And that's all it had. It didn't have multiplayer, really.
Mm-hmm. Not co-op.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Right, so I feel like they're being tricky with this. It's like the graphics say, rainbow tricks. Like, I feel like they're trying to pull a fast one a little bit over on the press here, hoping that they just kind of get impulse sales based upon people not knowing that the game doesn't... Because a lot of casual people will have no idea this doesn't have a campaign. Mm-hmm. And if you just watch a couple trailers for it, and haven't watched the interviews where they admit, it doesn't have a campaign, Well,
I think most casual people don't even know this game exists.
You think?
Have you seen any commercials?
No, I have. Watching football this weekend, I saw a ton of commercials for it. The guy from The Wire stars in their marketing campaign. Okay. And I saw tons of commercials for it, actually. Yeah, every other commercial break, it seemed like.
I'll be interested to see what sales are like, just because,
Of course, they don't mention in the commercials, no campaign.
No campaign, only online. But at the same time, it's like, I could get why Battlefront and Halo are, a popular draw from COD, because they're very different from COD.
Yeah.
But this looks like Call of Duty.
It looks like Call of Duty, even though it does play completely
right.
different.
But also looks like Call of Duty from 4 years ago.
Yeah,
Call of Duty has sort of, jazzed itself up, sci-fi'd itself up a bit.
Yeah,
and I just don't. I mean, I'm not a huge Call of Duty fan, but you look at what's in Call of Duty Black Ops 3 versus what's in this, and it's why would you not pick Black Ops 3 with all? It's got a campaign, it's got the zombie thing, it's got extra co-op modes. It's got tons and tons and tons of stuff to do.
And you're asking the same price for this game.
The $60
same
hurts.
Price. There's also been the dicey DLC stuff with this game. It could put a shadow over it a little bit. I don't know, man.
I've had a lot of good times with a lot of Rainbow Six games.
So have I.
I am out before this one even starts.
I'm going to play it. I am playing it for a game eval right now.
Right, but if someone wants to give me a free copy, I'll play it. But I'm not paying $60 for this thing.
I would not pay.
And by the time the price drops to what I would pay, I feel like people aren't going to be playing it anymore. So what's the point?
I mean, one thing that is good about this game is that they're giving the maps for free. Mm-hmm. So all the DLC maps you get when you pay the $60,
you got to pay for the characters, not the game.
Yep,
not the maps. Yeah.
And technically, you can unlock the characters if you play 25 hours of the game per character.
I got a lot of open world games to play.
Yeah, I honestly don't think that I would play this game more than 25 or 30 hours.
Yeah, that seems like a maximum.
Because there really aren't that many modes in it. It's all kind of the same thing. You're either the team hold up, or you're the team trying to get in.
Yeah, I would need to have a set team of people I know and play with online every night. That would be that'd be fun to play with in addition to the game being fun.
Yeah,
I feel like I need that kind of a social draw on this, and it's just not there.
Yeah,
for me, I'm sure there are people who do have that.
Yeah, you're right though. A lot of people might be enticed by it if a lot of their friends are playing it, but I have a feeling that a lot of their friends are playing either Battlefront or Call of Duty.
Certainly, what's true of my world.
Yeah,
everyone's playing Battlefront,
and I mean if you're. And going back to what you were saying about Black Ops 3, I mean, you look at the content in that game. Yeah. You have a campaign. It's only 6 hours long, and it's not great. In fact, it's not good at all if you play it by yourself. It's more fun when you play with others. But you can play it with others, so you can play with up to 4 people co-op through the campaign.
There is something to play.
Yep. Once you finish the campaign, it kind of remixes it with zombies, basically, and throws in this weird, supernatural angle into the campaign. So there's actually some incentive to go back and play it again. You've got zombies, which this time around is bigger than ever and more involved than ever. Again, something you can't really play on your own, but with friends, it's a blast. Then you have the multiplayer, which, depending on your perspective, you could play for forever, pretty much. I mean, Black Ops 2 still has 10 million people playing it a month. And then there's little stuff in there, like the top-down shooter, and like it's just loaded with content. Like you get your $60 worth from Black Ops 3, and like this to me is the ultimate, like, wait for it to go to like $29.99, $39.99. Get it at like one of
I'll see you at the Steam.
Toys R Us's, like, buy two get one free.
I look at this and I'll see you at the Steam Spring Sale.
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, when they bundled all the DLC into something, and it's all like 70% off.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And I will say this, like, I have had a ton of fun playing the game. Like, it's fun, it's different. It's even different than, like, Rainbow Six games typically. Like, there's never really been this whole kind of siege mode in a Rainbow Six. The problem is that that's all there is. Like, there's no just... I played, I think it was Black Arrow on the original Xbox for literally hundreds and hundreds of hours. And a lot of it was the novelty of playing on Xbox Live, because it was one of the best Xbox Live games when it came out, as far as its functionality and what it offered. But, I enjoyed playing Team Deathmatch in Black Arrow, and like...
Yeah. On Vegas, I remember my friends and I played Terrorist Hunt forever.
Yep.
Forever. Like, over and over and over and over, and we didn't even think it was funny when we screwed up. I mean, it was just... it's not like I don't have good feelings for Rainbow Six. I can't see this being worth my $60.
Well, then you really think back to Patriots, I think it was, and that looked like it was going to be like Rainbow Six Vegas. Have a full campaign and then have multiplayer as well. They totally ditched that.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just gonna like kind of let this one float by and wait for the Division.
Yeah. So we just given like 2 games in this show where we're like, yeah, you probably should wait. The other part of
also,
it too,
it's been a good year. There's a lot of other stuff to play. There's a lot of good stuff on sale right now. It's like it's hard to say, hey, throw $60 at this thing that you might like when we can say like, hey, throw $30 at something we know is great.
Yeah,
so it's a weird time to bring out something like that.
Well, I think all you sifters are going to wait anyway, because there's like no reviews out there. Like I said, there's one. So most people, I don't think, will go buy a game without reading at least a couple reviews. Some games people will blindly buy, like a Metal Gear game, I think anyone would buy without caring about reviews. Zelda, there's some franchises out there where people are like, I'm just buying it. I don't really care what these people think of it. So,
yeah.
But this is not one of those.
I don't know if the next Zelda is one of those for me either.
Really? Yeah, I mean, Skyward
Sword is a burn.
It was
to
a
me.
burn, I agree.
I got a nice gold Wiimote out of it, but that's about the only like upside to that game to me.
I enjoyed it, but no, it's probably the least enjoyable Zelda I had played in I don't even know how long.
Well, it was better than Phantom Hourglass, which I hated. But
yeah, I wasn't a big fan of. There's been a couple Zelda games that I haven't liked a ton. Majora's Mask, I didn't really like all that much.
I didn't like Majora's Mask either.
I know, that's sacrilege.
Yeah,
I know Zelda fans right now are like, what?
What?
You didn't like Majora's Mask? I didn't.
Majora's, just like Phantom Hourglass, made me feel like the way you pull me out of a Zelda game, you put a time limit on it.
Oh, I know. It's so weird. And like, I remember, too, the other part of it is like I kept trying to start the game, and you couldn't save for the first time until like 40 minutes into it. And for whatever reason, I was just really busy at that time, and people kept like interrupting me. And so I'd turn it off, and I'd start it again, and I have to go through that same like 30 or 40 minute thing. And like I did it 3 times fine before I was able to kind of go forward, and I think that soured like my overall impression of it. Yeah. But mostly Zelda games I love, though. I mean, to be honest with you, like it bats about 90% for me typically. So, but yeah, Skyward Sword, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with the new one, but. Yeah, I would say wait and see on Rainbow Six Siege. Like I said, I'm working on the game eval right now, but I'm juggling like 3 games, so that one's probably going to be pretty far down the list. I think as far as interest, too, people would probably much rather read our review of Just Cause 3 or Battlefront, which I'm also playing right now, and Xenoblade Chronicles X. So priorities, people. All right, let's move on to the next topic. Dying Light, Matt. Did you enjoy Dying Light?
I liked it. Didn't love it, but I liked it.
That's the way I'd probably put it. I'm just going to fully admit that I have not finished the game.
Neither have I. I got about halfway through it. It felt like it was built from the parts of like lesser games a little bit. It was like they took a lot of ideas from other open world
inspired
and
by
games and sort of like put them together into a thing that kind of worked.
Yeah.
And, like, it's like a lot of the climbing and stuff was cool, and like like when night falls, like you have to run from the superpowered zombies. And,
Right.
Like there were a couple moments during the nighttime runs where like some awesome stuff happened and like some narrow escapes and some cool stuff. So,
Grapple hook was pretty cool, I thought.
I had a good time.
I liked that the zombies weren't just like shambling idiots, like they would actually like climb up buildings and stuff like that. Because I remember the first time I used the grapple hook, went to the top of the building, I was like, oh, I'm cool up here. Nope. Like, next thing you know, like all these zombies start piling up onto the top of the building. I was like, oh my god, you're not safe anywhere in this game. But I'm right there with you. Enjoyed it. You know, it actually is kind of a B-level game.
Yeah, it is a B. I'd say it is.
They don't really
a
exist that
game.
often anymore, but that's kind of one of them. I feel like.
Solid, not going to be on my top 10.
Yeah, and like if you gave the developers another year, it probably could have got up to like a AAA quality game, but you didn't, so it didn't.
Yeah.
So the reason we're talking about it now is because Dying Light has done something that I've never heard of in the industry. It announced and sold its season pass for this game, and just a couple days ago, the developers came out and said, yeah, we're going to increase the price of the season pass for this game. After people had already bought it. Now, here's the thing. If you have already bought it, they're not going to ask you for more money to like unlock it. Like, you're good. Like, if you bought the season pass, you're in there.
And the price doesn't actually go up till the 8th.
Right.
So you can still buy it for the old price if you really want it.
Right. But who's going to buy the season pass for Dying Light?
That hasn't already.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, Matt, have you ever heard of this happening before?
No, this is a new one on me.
Like, how does that
I don't
happen?
even know what... I mean, I guess the new expansion thing that's coming out is pretty ambitious. There's a new map. There's like you can drive vehicles.
Well, vehicles is the big thing, right?
And like of course, you need a new big map to do that in because the city that you're in this one is a little too constricted for that.
Yeah.
But like, so I guess like
maybe saying vehicles is a bit of a stretch. Like you drive vehicle.
Yeah.
It's just a buggy.
But it's still something.
Yeah.
And it changes it up.
That's a big change. I mean, we were talking about it earlier. What separates Just Cause 3 from a lot of open world games is vehicles, and Grand Theft Auto as well. So.
And I guess maybe that went more over budget or something. I have no idea what would cause that.
They said that like it ended up being bigger than they thought it was going to be. But you're the one who plans what you're making. How does that happen? You just like work on it for like 6 months and be like, "Whoa, crap! Like, how did this game get so big out of nowhere?"
Well, the only thing I can think is that a lot of times stuff like that, that happens in film and TV too, where you're just like, "Oh, this is actually way bigger than we thought it was going to be." We got to cut it down. Like we got to be more realistic. And it sounds like maybe they just decided to say fuck realistic. We're going to make it. Like
we're going to charge more money.
Yeah, we're going to charge more money for it. So I'm like, on one hand, that's kind of like bold. I kind of like that. But on the other hand, and I mean, it's not like they suddenly just like jacked the price. Or like everybody who got the season pass, give us $5 more.
Yeah.
It's like. So, I mean, they're handling it as best they can. I don't know how advantageous it's going to be for them. Like, I don't know how many people are going to, like, all of a sudden want to fork over for the season pass of a game that's, like, when did that game out? Like, February?
Yeah. March?
Yeah. So, like, okay, the game is coming up on a year.
Yeah.
How many people are buying season passes that far? At this point, you'd expect the season pass to be discounted about the same amount that they've raised it.
I mean, here's the thing we should have mentioned, too, is that the game sold like crazy.
Yeah.
Like crazy.
Well, there was nothing else
like,
around
it was like the shocker. It's probably except for maybe like Rocket League, which was given away for free, it was probably the biggest shocker of a big seller for 2015, Dying Light.
Yeah, I don't think anybody expected that.
I got an email from their PR department, the company that runs their PR, like a month ago, and they're like, "Hey, don't forget about us for Game of the Year. Remember this game that we sold? It was at like top 3 NPD for like 2 or 3 months straight.
Yeah.
Like it did really, really freaking well.
It was good timing.
Because what I was gonna say at first was like, who even puts out DLC after a game's been out this long? And then I remembered like they sold a ton of copies of this game.
Yeah.
So maybe they do get people who would buy the season pass 9 months, 10 months after it came out.
Well, I figure they're kind of banking on the idea that this expansion's probably gonna get some press, because it's a pretty big change. It
hasn't really driven a lot of hype.
No, but I've heard about it, which is more than I can say for a lot of
That's a good point. Yeah.
B-list stuff that doesn't get necessarily written up, after the game already comes out. And people that play the game might perk up and notice it at some point. It might take a while, but at that point, it's going to be too late. It's already cost what it costs.
Yeah.
And the price of the DLC expansion might be high enough that like, oh, I'll just pay an extra $10, get some extra stuff for the season pass, because the season pass did have some good stuff in it.
Well, basically, I think the price is going up $5.
Yeah.
From was it like 14 to 20 or 10 to 15? I think
it's 14 to 20.
Yeah.
$14.99 to $19.99.
Yeah.
Like that.
And I mean, they're saying that it's like almost as big as the base game, but we've heard that before.
Yeah.
And it's never true.
But usually when people say that, they charge $50 for the season pass.
Right, exactly.
And I mean, how much was the season pass for Arkham Knight?
$50.
I feel like you're probably getting more out of the Dying Light.
I would hope so.
Pass.
That would be probably the most disappointing season. Not surprising, but it is probably the most disappointing. Maybe we should have saved that for our Game of the Year episode. But
yeah, you're gonna
most disappointing season pass. I think Arkham Knight wins it hands down.
And you'd think they would have learned after the reactions to the Arkham City stuff. But.
And you think they would have learned from the reactions to the first couple pieces of DLC they put out for this? Because look, it got the same opinion as the stuff for the last Arkham games did. It's not enough. It doesn't add anything to the game. It's basically just, here's this character, go beat some people up.
Yep.
And that's exactly what the DLC has been for Arkham Knight. And the first two that came out, they got the same reviews that the last Arkham game got. And instead of like saying, okay, well, maybe we should take our time for the next... No, they just turned them right on out.
Yep. Got to move on to the next thing.
Well, meanwhile, they're dealing with the whole PC port of Arkham Knight, which has been a total debacle. And today they announced that if you bought the Steam version of Arkham Knight, go visit your Steam library today, Sifters. You may have like the entire Arkham catalog sitting in your Steam.
Assuming you didn't already have it, because
right.
all the people who bought the third game without playing the other two, I'm sure that was a huge chunk of the audience.
Still, I will say that Warner Brothers has made the best out of an awful situation.
Yeah.
But they put themselves in that awful situation to begin with, so...
Yeah. Warner Brothers has not had a great PC port track record.
No, it really doesn't.
Late.
It really doesn't. So you feel okay about this, Matt? Them increasing the price on the...
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why they're doing it. I mean, I'm sure there's an accounting reason in there somewhere, but like, I don't know. I feel like it's such a strange move that I feel like if they didn't have to do it, they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I figure there's probably a good reason for it. And it's not like they're like jacking it up to like 30 or something. So it's like, no, now you got to pay $50 for our season pass. 15 to 19.
$5 is a lot though.
For what it is, yeah.
See, you start doing the math.
But how much is the actual expansion? Isn't it like $14 to begin with?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That's not terrible.
Yeah, but $5 makes a big difference.
Yeah, but an extra $5 for there's a substantial number of things that are already out for that season pass, so it's not like you're going to get really screwed on it.
Yeah, because you think about it, it's like $5 per purchase, and if let's say 500,000 people buy it, like that's $2.5 million that they make extra off of that. Like that's a lot of money.
Yeah, but I feel like
that's like the whole development team's salary for like the next 6 years.
Well, I hope it's more than that. But I don't know. I mean, we'll see how people react to it. I feel like it's not the craziest thing in the world, but I would sure love to see the behind the scenes like meetings on that one,
right?
Like,
where they finally decided, yeah, we're going to do it.
Yeah, we got to do this, as opposed to just like charging more for. Because I figure like the majority of season passes they're going to sell in that game have been sold.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So they're just like saying, oh, we got to get the last few suckers just a little more money out of them.
Well, like we were saying earlier, I think a lot of people forgot about this game. Like they probably finished it way back when, and I think maybe some.
I continually forget about that game. It was only recently when I had to rebuild the database or whatever when Battlefront crapped out on me on the store on launch night. And of course, that erases all my updates.
Right.
And so it then re-downloaded all the updates for the games I had installed, and Dying Light popped. I'm like, oh yeah, that game. And I was like, I remember that. That was fun. It was like a little like, oh, I should play that again. I can't play anything else right now. It was one of those things. But like, I have good memories of it. I think I might go back to it.
And chances are people who
for the expansion, I might go back to it for the expansion.
Yeah. And the chances are people who bought it, played it, forgot about it. They haven't even followed how much like this costs.
Yeah.
And it's not like when they go to buy it, they're going to be like, hey, by the way, this is $5 more now than it was. They're just going to be like, just give me $20.
Yeah.
So they won't be none the wiser.
Yeah, if you don't have a photographic memory, you're probably not going to notice.
Yeah, exactly. So, not a big story, really.
It's an interesting one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to like set the world on fire, but like, it's an interesting.
It's a precedent. It's a first.
It's a first, and it's one of those things where you wonder if some of the less scrupulous DLC providers are sort
watching.
Of like,
Exactly. Yeah, that's the fear. That's the fear. Anytime something happens for the first time, is that somebody's going to see it as an exploit and exploit it.
Yeah, the upside is like, a lot of the stuff where you really feel like like something like Arkham Knight's like you can't really charge much more for that.
Yeah.
Without setting off a firestorm.
Yeah.
It's like it's gonna be $45 now. Fuck you. It's like,
there's a lot of factors in their favor. One, the game's kind of underground. Two, it's been a long time since it came out, and maybe they've weighed all that stuff and been like, we could probably get away with this. It's working on us. We're sitting here being like, no big deal.
Well, I'm kind of like, if I want, I don't remember if I bought the season pass, frankly. So I'm gonna go back and if I don't, maybe I'll just get it before the 8th for $15.
Yeah. And so, Sifters, public service announcement: if you have Dying Light and you're thinking about
it, do it now.
Buy it now, because after the 8th, you're gonna get charged $5 more for it.
Which might have actually been their plan.
It might be. Just to create that rush of people. Yeah. That could be all part of it, too. You may be right.
Right in there before the end of the quarter.
We're getting played like a fiddle.
We are so easy.
Yeah, apparently. All right, let's move on to the next topic of the Big Six. It seems like the NX news just keeps coming in a steady trickle every week. Mm-hmm. This week, the big news was, and it came from this...
Is it news or is it speculative, maybe stuff?
It came from this website called DigiTimes.
Oh, well, who could doubt?
Right, and I had never heard of them. So I was like, well, this could be just some, and this has happened in the past where people have created a fake website to report fake news item.
Yeah.
And everyone goes and reports on it, and then they realize, oh, it was all a ruse or whatever. So, I investigated the site. It's been around for a long time. They typically report on news like this. They typically get not scoops related to Nintendo, but just technology in general, and they're kind of behind the scenes with manufacturing of electronics, I guess is the best way to put it. Mm-hmm. So they seem legit, I guess is what I was trying to get at. And so basically what they said is that they've been talking to Foxconn, who has been...
manufacturer.
They are going to manufacture the NX.
Yeah.
And Foxconn had told them that they were instructed to be able to produce 20 million NXs before the end of 2016. And then basically they had told the website DigiTrends that there's no way in hell we can do that, but we're hoping we can get 10 to 12 million done by the end of 2016. Matt, do you believe any of this?
I still think it's coming out next year, so...
You still do or don't?
I do.
You do?
I think they're crazy if they don't get it out next year, even if it is in limited numbers.
Because Pachter was saying he really doesn't think it's coming out next year. Because he said if you follow their usual pattern of announce at E3, comes out 18 months later, they should have announced it at E3 last year.
Well, I think the usual pattern is out the fucking window for Nintendo right now.
Yeah, so, they're pretty desperate.
All due respect to Pachter, because he knows a lot more about it than I do.
Yeah.
But I think next fall, you have to have that thing out next. If you wait another year on that thing, I don't even see how you recover.
Well, Pachter was also saying that he thinks it's going to be the similar power to an Xbox One or a PlayStation 4. Mm-hmm. Is that too late for a machine that power? Aren't they just repeating the Wii all over again?
But here's the funny thing. What if, because it's a little later, components are a little cheaper, what if the NX is comparable in power to the other two systems, but is a little better, and of the three, it's the one that can do shit at 1080p 60 frames? What if it becomes the best platform for multi-platform games?
It's still so late, though.
It is so late, but the hardcore audience would go there if they could get better performance out of it.
You're right.
And the word of mouth in terms of better performance in multi-platform games has benefited PlayStation 4 tremendously already. And if Nintendo can take over that momentum, who knows?
PlayStation 4 just crossed 30 million.
Yeah, I don't know.
You figure by this time next year they'll be at 50. I'm guessing
maybe
around there.
Consider that by the end of last generation, PlayStation 3 had beaten the Wii.
Yeah,
it can happen. The late ground stuff when price drops occur, and who knows what the NX will cost. But you never know. And
it's a hard sell though, because at that point you have the software. Next year for PlayStation 4 is going to be maybe. It may top 1998 for the best year ever in video games.
It's going to be crazy.
Really is. PlayStation 4 next year is just about to unleash a bevy of amazing games. And you're going to see a lot of it in the next week when you see the Game Awards and PlayStation Experience. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. They gave up this year basically.
But I still think I'm not a Nintendo cheerleader by any stretch of the imagination. even though I did get my Wii U.
Oh, you
on Black
finally
Friday.
got one.
At Target. I went at 2.
You are the guy.
I am.
There are all those stories about how the best-selling video game console at Target was the Wii U. And I was like, oh my god, maybe the Wii U's having this crazy resurgence.
Well, it was the best bundle of the 3, I think, because it had Smash Brothers and Splatoon, and it was $250. I'm like, yeah, that's the right price for that. Sure, $100 worth of games, $150 system, sold. So I went in at 2 a.m. and I got it, and then I got it home and I opened it up, and there was dirt under the screen, under the glass, so I had to return it and exchange it because, thank you, repurposed. That was probably a refurbished
Do you
controller.
think they would really sell a refurbished gamepad to Target?
I don't know how else dirt gets under the glass. These things are put together in clean rooms. You know, I don't know how else that happens. But there was dirt. There was specks of dirt under the glass on my controller, and it was right in the middle. It was right there, and I'm like, well, can't do that. So it was like, so I took it back and exchanged it. The new one's fine. I'm ready for Xenoblade.
Yeah,
here we go. But so I've been playing, and it is interesting to get back to the the Nintendo feel of things, and
you haven't had a Wii U all this time.
No, and it's like wow, the OS is really annoying. But then you play.
Oh, dude, you have no idea.
But then you play Mario Maker, and it's like, oh yeah, this feels good. When
I
can get a level that doesn't say "don't move" at the beginning of it.
You are the beneficiary of many, many updates to that OS.
Oh, yeah?
Oh my gosh, when it launched, man, it was a disaster. I can't even imagine what it would be like to just get a Wii U now and not have fought through all the crap that people have dealt with.
Well, I did have to transfer everything from my Wii.
Yeah,
which was one of the clunkiest things I've ever had.
But it works.
It crashed halfway through doing it, and I had to restart it and do it again.
But it worked, right?
It worked. It was fun to watch the Pikmin carry things through the giant thing. And then at the end of it, I'm just like, wait, you have to pay $1 for each of the games on the Virtual Console to get them over to the bite me.
Yeah, that's bullcrap.
I mean, I did pay it for Link to the Past, but
let's be honest, it's the same on all the other systems as well, except for now Xbox One obviously has backwards compatibility.
I mean, it took them long enough, but it's.
There's no reason that they should ask you for that $1.
It seems a little cheap.
It's really petty.
Yeah, it's like the cheap uncle that charges you for soda.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, well, come on.
It's just a quarter,
give me
son.
a Coke. It's just a quarter. Give me a quarter. I'm like, come on. That's what Nintendo was like to me there. I'm like, really? Yeah. You want $1 for the how many copies of fucking Super Mario World do I own at this point? 5?
Yeah.
Just give it to me.
Right. So I saw that story about Target and the Wii U and how it did really well, and I was like, wow. I'm like, maybe this is like the holiday that turns the corner. It's way too late, obviously.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the holiday season where it finally turns a corner. And
well, I think that was finally the right price.
Well, so then today, the other reports came out from all the other retailers, and basically it was 86% of console sales over Black Friday weekend were PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So,
well, Target's the one that had the good deal.
Right. So. Yeah. So I guess that does make sense.
And good for me because I got one now.
You from Target.
Now I can play Xenoblade, and that's what I actually wanted.
Yeah. So let's get back on the actual topic
the
of
NX.
6.
What I'm saying is, I think Nintendo's got a shot at not winning, but becoming competitive again. Being a player. It could be a 3-way race again, and maybe not overall generation, but in terms of who might win next Christmas.
Yeah.
Especially if you launch that thing, it's got a little bit more power. It runs stuff better. You get the third parties on board. I know I'm saying a lot of what ifs, but you get that up there. You get a competent online system. Maybe we should just stop talking. But I'm saying if you
that's a lot of ifs.
It's a lot of ifs, but it's the time for Nintendo to pull it together and do that. They gotta come through on this, and you get a Zelda. If you do the Twilight Princess dual system launch with Zelda, who knows?
I think I know. I just can't see it, Matt. There's just going to be too many great games available for both PlayStation 4 and Xbox One at that point. They're going to be cheaper. By then, they'll probably have dropped at least another $50.
We'll see. And then, it all could become irrelevant because Pokemon Go might just explode in ways that make Nintendo not really care all that much about the console race anymore.
I mean, I kind of hate to say it, and I think Pachter was saying that, its best chance was that if it's just like Xbox One and PlayStation 4, but I'm starting to think that maybe its best chances is it's close to mobile as possible.
I think it needs to have some kind of mobile tether feature in it, for sure. It has to combine the console and the handheld and the mobile into one kind of functional box that sort of makes it a kind of your hub for the Nintendo experience.
Yeah.
Or the Nintendo difference, as Reggie would say.
Yeah. Yeah, that was their old tagline.
Yeah. But I think it needs to be, and also going back and playing, like, went back on the Wii U and I played through the emulator, the Wii emulator. I played Mario World and Link to the Past and ActRaiser and Dracula's Curse and like a bunch of stuff I have, because I haven't had the Wii hooked up for a long time, so I started playing all these old games again, and I'm just like, really, I fervently believe that their best shot is if the NX is kind of a holistic celebration of the Nintendo experience from start to finish. Like, if I can play just about anything that's ever been on a Nintendo system from 1985 to now, plus new stuff coming out for the system, like, that's what it should be. It should be the Nintendo Entertainment System.
I mean, you've kind of been able to do that. I mean, the Wii U is backwards compatible with the Wii.
Yeah, but it's not universal enough.
The Wii U is backwards compatible with the GameCube. I mean, that's one thing Nintendo has done well.
But I'm saying it should all be digital. It should all be there in a digital library for you. It should all be on this box. It should be able to travel with you when you take the controller, which is the next 3DS, out with you. You should be able to connect your mobile device. Pokemon Go should have extra stuff you can do when you hook it up to an NX, and you can do other things with it. I don't know what you do. Some point in there, you should probably give us the actual console Pokemon RPG that people have wanted since 1990
Yeah, that'd be pretty smart.
I'm just saying, like, pull out all the stops. Like, don't half-ass anything on this thing, because you got to get people's attention again.
So let's talk about the estimates here. So 10 to 12. Well, first of all, Nintendo allegedly or reportedly wanted 20 million. That to me just seems completely ludicrous. That would be them selling double what the Wii U has sold in 3 years in 2 months. So that we're not even going to address that. Let's talk about the 10 to 12 million, which is what Foxconn believes it could produce. Again, allegedly, reportedly.
So basically, that would be the maximum number of NXs you could get on the shelves by the end of 2016.
Right. That seems insane to me, Matt.
Insane in terms of optimistic?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Like, insanely optimistic.
Better than shortage.
Yeah. Or is it?
I don't know.
I mean, there's...
You got to be optimistic if you're going to launch a whole new console. I mean, you can't just go into it assuming
for sure it's going to fail.
Too.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand what they're after if this is actually true.
But that's a big risk. Like, I don't think I remember reading any reports about the Wii U where they had, like, 10 million units available at launch. Because if they did, they never had to do another production run of the Wii U.
Well, I heard
Think about that.
I don't know. I heard that they did stop making the actual systems a while ago. So.
I haven't seen any of that, but I would... say that's probably completely true.
Yeah, I don't know if any more Wii U the controllers maybe, but I don't know if any more Wii U systems are actually going to be manufactured than already exist in the world.
I don't know why they would. Right. I mean, after this
That's
holiday,
another reason I got it when I did, because it's like, at some point, these things are going to disappear.
Right. I mean, if they had enough demand to get them through this holiday, they don't really need much more than that. I mean, they probably need another 500,000 Wii U's for whenever Zelda comes out. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing that's about how many systems they'll move total because of that game.
Especially if it's also
best
on
case
the
scenario,
NX.
Actually.
Well, especially if it's also on the NX.
Right.
I
mean, look, sales of the GameCube didn't go berserk when Twilight Princess came out.
Although, when that does come out for both systems, I highly, if you're a speculator, if you like to collect games, whatever, buy a Wii U version and keep it sealed. Yeah. Because that's going to be much rarer than the NX version.
It's just like the GameCube version of Twilight Princess.
Twilight Princess on GameCube gets a bonus because you can use an actual controller with it.
Right.
And because it's flipped. You know? And I expect that game will lose some of its value once the HD version comes out for the Wii U. Because,
you think?
Well, because that's the GameCube version, so now you can play it more easily.
Right.
But I do think because, like you say, I think the Wii U version of Zelda U will sell much less because people will have moved on to the new system. That will be a collector's item later on.
And actually, going back to what we were saying earlier about, is it better to have too much supply? Go back and remember the Wii. Remember how hard it was to get the Wii for the first, 6 months?
Yeah.
And so I would say that it actually maybe is better to have a bit of a shortage because you create this, hysteria around the product where there's videos on YouTube of parents fighting over the last one on the shelf and, all these anecdotal reports on social media about, oh, I'm going here to get it, and oh, I found him over here, come and get it. Like,
yeah, but you can't really manufacture that. I don't think. Like that they legitimately ran out of Wii's.
Right.
That's why
right.
it was. It wasn't like, oh, we underproduced just because. I think the demand. They sold out because the demand was already there. I think people were fighting over them because the demand was already there. I don't think you can artificially create that demand.
The Wii didn't sell 10 million units in 2 months at launch. And that was a straight-up phenomenon. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen a video game system in my whole life, and I've seen them all, like that. Where not just, like, my gamer friends were like, I can't find... Like, my mom calling me, being like, hey, Aunt Joni is, like, really trying to get this for, like, her nephew or whatever. Can you get... And I literally called Nintendo and asked them if I could buy systems. And they did. They sold me systems. But they're like, this is for work, right? And they were. Like, and the funny part was, like, we thought the Wii was going to be so huge at GT. Because it was. It was like, it came out, and it was just, like, this phenomenon. And, like, Nintendo sent us one.
Yep.
One.
Same.
And we're staring down the barrel of the next 5 or 7 years of, like, the biggest console ever, maybe, at that point, people were saying, and I fully thought that might be...
For the next 2 years, it sure looked like it.
I thought it might be the case. And so we ordered, like, 5 Wiis from Nintendo. And we paid, like, retail price for them and whatnot, but they did get them for us so that we didn't have to, like, try to track them down to stores. And those 4 Wiis sat in my office untouched for, like, 5 years. Because there was never, despite how popular it was, there was never enough games coming out for it.
Well, also, the vast majority, and I don't know how they didn't learn this or understand this, but the vast majority of people who bought that system played Wii Sports and Wii Play. Most of those systems never saw another game come out of it.
You're right.
It was a Wii bowling machine. It sat on top of the television or whatever. No one ever touched it again.
Or Netflix. A lot of people use it for Netflix.
Well, I would love to know, I'm sure we'll never find out, but I would love to know what percentage of Wiis never played anything except those 2 games. Yeah. Because if you look at how that install base, and then something like Mario Galaxy comes out, which was like the best reviewed Mario since Mario 64.
Yeah. And was the best Mario since Mario 64.
And it sold like 10 million copies with a user install base of over 100 million. Yeah. And it's like, how, and
it took it a long time to get to that 10
It took a long time. It took years to get to that. And it's like, how does, like, right there, like, that's a problem.
Yeah, that is a problem.
It's a problem in terms of, like, trying to see your audience as your install base. But, like, the thing was, the people who have always been fans of Mario, people who have always been there, us, the gamers were there. They're the ones that bought that game.
Yeah.
And that's about the right number of people, in terms of how large you think that gaming audience is. That's about right.
Yeah.
But then they didn't seem to understand that audience was the only thing that was going to come back to them for the next system. The Wii U, they really seem to expect the people that made Wii a big fad to, I guess,
even though it had been already irrelevant for like 2.5 years.
No one, it was not a thing anymore, and like no one, like it was like they didn't understand that they had a core audience, but they decided to sort of go after the same grandmas and such.
Their problem was the audience that they had with the Wii was not the type of audience that's loyal.
No.
Like, and we've actually...
Well, they're not game players.
The other thing, too, is that, like, honestly, gamers just really aren't that loyal. Because look at how many people had Xbox 360 as their first console last gen. Most people. Like, that was the console they had, at least for the first 3 years. Eventually, maybe they got a PlayStation 3 to play the exclusive games from Sony or whatever. But the first sign of trouble for Xbox One, those people jump ship, like, immediately.
People want the best experience, And look at how many people get old enough to make some actual money, start building a PC, gaming PCs, and never look back.
Yeah,
because that's the best experience for them.
It's true. You're absolutely right.
Like that, and we're very mercenary about that. There's not a lot of there's loyalty in the sense like, oh yeah, I love Zelda, I love Halo, I love all that stuff. But when it comes down to like, oh well, do you want to like put $500 down on that love?
Right.
Well, I'd rather just have the thing that runs better. Like it's a technological argument at the end.
I don't think the Wii would have sold 10 million, even if they had the supply in 2 months. Like, I don't think it's possible.
I think the audience might have gotten bigger, but like that is the most optimistic estimate I have ever heard of.
It's insane, which makes me actually
especially
call
with the
into
competition
question
of the other 2 systems on top of it.
And it makes me call into question the whole report. Because to me, that is just so out of bounds. Like, if they had said 5 million or something, or 5 to 7, I'd be like, wow, Nintendo's counting on it doing pretty well. That would actually, like, get me excited. I'd be like, wow, Nintendo really thinks they got something here. If it's going to, like, sell better than the first Wii. But to me, the 10 to 12 million, it just sounds like it's been pulled out of his butt. The 20 million is
well,
just...
I don't know. I mean, if you want those all by the end of 2016, that doesn't necessarily mean you want them, all at once. It means like that's your stock till probably the middle of 2017.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, you're not going to stop producing them.
Well, you just keep producing them, but there's a lag time on that. They want enough for launch, they want enough for the holiday season, they want enough for the post-holiday. But then you've got the rest of the order can kind of come in later in 2017. I mean, those 10 to 12 million are going to last a long time. And remember,
I would think they would last
also remember,
3 years if you're talking about the Wii U.
Well, remember, they don't like instantly go in a box and get shipped to shelves. I mean, like the Wii U I just bought, which is a bundle that came out last week. The manufacture date's like March or something. It's like they
or they took apart old Wii U's and
I don't know
repackaged it in the bundle.
The system seems new to me, but that first
Except
controller,
for your gamepad.
That gamepad, I think was a Frankenstein job.
Yeah,
because I don't know how else you get dirt under that screen.
Yeah, so I think we both agree that this is a bunch of hogwash.
I wouldn't bet money.
I mean, you still think it's coming out next year?
I think it's coming out next year. I
would say that's 50-50.
I don't know if it's 10 to 12 million coming out next year.
Yeah.
But again, that could be just like how maybe you want all your units, the units that come out in launch November or whatever might have been made in July, and they have to keep producing 10 to 12 million by the end because those 10 to 12 million is going to carry over to like next June.
Yeah.
So it could be just, it sounds like a ridiculous number to us, but maybe they're only going to have about 5 million out by that holiday season.
I would say this: I would love to see Nintendo's next console sell 10 to 12 million in the first 2 months it's available. Like that would just good for the industry. Nintendo, a healthy Nintendo is good for everybody.
Yeah, I don't want to see an industry with no Nintendo.
Yeah, I don't either. So that would be great. I just don't think that that's the case. I still say 50-50 on whether it even comes out next year.
I think if you don't have a, I mean, I'm not going to necessarily disagree with the 50-50 idea, but I still think if you don't get that thing out next year, you're buried. You're pre-buried.
You can't really get more buried than they are right now, though.
It can always get worse.
Yeah.
That's the thing true. We should have learned by now.
Point. That's a good point. A life lesson learned from GameFace on Sifted.net right there, everybody. All right, let's move on to the last topic of the Big Six. Here's another game I've been playing. About 15 to 20 hours into this game, Xenoblade Chronicles X for the Wii U. Probably one of the system's last great hurrahs. Mm-hmm. This game has been shown since the day the Wii U was announced, I believe.
It took a while.
It took a long while. And I got to tell you, now that I'm playing it, I totally see why. The game is just gigantic on pretty much every conceivable level. Here's the thing about this game, Matt. I have a million things I want to say about this game, but I think what's most important is that I don't feel like this game was made for adults. For a number of reasons. The first reason is the story. Story, from my personal taste, it might as well not even be there.
Is it like standard JRPG
Yeah, I mean, it's made for 12 and 13-year-old boys. And look, we don't have any of those on Sifted. Everybody's at least 18 on Sifted. You have to be, or you can't even register without a credit card. So, for our audience and the people that are watching this show, I would just say right off the top, it is a JRPG. I mean, you're right. That's a good way to put it. Is a lot of JRPGs.
Did you play the last one?
I did. Yeah, I didn't finish it. I never got even close to finishing it.
Yeah, but the story on that I didn't think was the most amazing thing. It was pretty bog standard.
I would say it's better than this one, though.
Ouch.
Yeah, the writing in this game is pretty poor. Treehouse is pretty good with its localizations. Although I think 8-4-Play did the localization for this.
Yeah, it was the people that did Nier, I think. Which Nier was a good localization, I thought.
Yeah,
for the most part.
And it's not that the localization is bad. It's just that the whole setup and the story and the characters are it's a teenage fantasy. I mean,
that's kind of what I expect from that genre, though. I mean, JRPGs sort of hone in on that sort of 16-year-old chosen one thing, and the village burns down, and the bad guy shows up, and you got to go across the world, and you get your mech, and it's like this. I mean, it's just what it is. I'm more interested in the mechanics, the gameplay, the exploring the world, doing the things, dressing in the clothes and wearing the mech suits, really.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, I don't want to go straight to talk about the mechs yet, but so here's the thing. I think I mentioned last week on the show when I had just started playing it that it was really complicated. The gameplay was complicated, the battle system was complicated. Like,
and the reviews all bear that out so far.
I actually haven't read a ton of reviews.
I've read most of them, and a lot of them say, it varies. Like, I think some of them ding it for like, oh, it's got all these unexplained systems, and then some of the others are like, yeah, they're a little obscure in how the systems work, but the game's so long, you have plenty of time to figure out how it works.
No, that's totally my perspective. Yeah. So at first when I started playing it, I was like, this is a disaster. Because there's like all these little things that are like popping up on the screen while you're playing. You're like, wait, what the hell is that? Like, what does that mean? And like, at first it was really frustrating. And I was like, oh man, they just threw me in the deep end. They didn't explain enough about all this stuff. But then you keep playing it and you start to realize like, the game is really grindy. Like, you fight stuff a lot in this game. I mean, in the same stuff over. It's like, they've done a very good job marketing this game and showing the different creatures, but you fight a lot of the same creatures over and over again, and it's like you said, it's 100% right. Like, it needs to be this deep and complicated to sustain the game for as long as it is. And I'm 15 or 20 hours in, Matt. I still have not got a mech. Think about that.
That's a long time to not have a robot.
I would say that is probably the thing they marketed the most in this game is the mech, and they're called skells. It's the thing that they show in every trailer. You're in the mech. Here's a hangar full of mechs. Get in your mech. Go out in the sky and shoot in your mech. I still don't have a mech, Matt.
Have you seen mechs? Have they been?
I've seen them.
They're there.
Just teased.
They're in the world.
Yeah, but I've not got one. And there hasn't even been like a hint yet at like a mission that I need to complete to like get one or...
So do you feel like you've missed your mech, or have you just not gotten there yet?
No, I think it's pretty impossible to like miss stuff in this game. Like they do lead you along pretty well. They don't explain the battle system well enough, but they do lead you along pretty well. And so I don't feel like I've like just missed a mission that I was supposed to tackle or anything. Like,
seems like that would be a pretty big sort of
it's
content
a huge
gate.
deal. Yeah, I mean, like they should be funneling me toward. They should have like dangled.
I feel like it's like it's probably like I figure there's probably like the game sort of in thirds in that regard, where it's like you've got the on foot part, you've got the I've got a mech part, and then you've got the I've got a mech that can fly part.
Right.
Because sort of like Final Fantasy usually does. You start on foot, then you get some kind of rover thing, and then you get the airship, and then you can go anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably the same thing. I mean, this is very formulaic. I mean, it is a JRPG. And, I guess what I really wanted to talk about in this topic with the two of us is grinding in general. Like, I feel like I've reached a point in my life where I can't enjoy it anymore.
I think for me it depends on what I'm doing. Like, if the battle system is fun, no problem playing it a lot. That's how I felt about the first one. The first Xenoblade Chronicles was like that too. But even fun battle
systems, like, it can only last so long. Like, that's why I didn't finish the last Xenoblade. Like, I think I've got to like 35 hours into it, and nothing new was being introduced to it at that point.
Well, I've been through Xenoblade Chronicles, the first one. I went through it on the Wii, and then I got about halfway through it on the 3DS. And while I was sitting around after the Wii U, I got the Wii U and I was just waiting for Xenoblade Chronicles X. And so yesterday and the day before, I actually loaded it up on Dolphin and put in the Ultra
the original one,
the original, the Ultra HD texture packs and all that stuff, and loaded it up. And now it's in like 1440p and like all. So I started a new game of it, just running around seeing all this stuff. And I love the game. I love the game. I love the battle system. I like that they have like British voice actors that are like nobody I've ever heard before, so it's not like Troy Baker and the same 15 people again, and all this. And and yes, you hear the same thing over and over again. It's like it is Rhine time a little more often than it should be.
Yeah.
But I just love it. I love the aesthetic. I like the world. I mean, I know it's all different in this one.
Yeah.
So like I'm hoping that like the battle system on the new one will suck me in the same way the old, because I don't have a lot of patience for grind if it's not something I'm enjoying doing. Like. I stopped playing the Platinum Transformers game real early when it became clear that one of the main elements of the game you have to perform is you have to grind the weapon upgrade stuff constantly. Just endless digging through trash items to like grind it all into the weapons you want to use. And at a certain point, I'm just like, I don't care.
I
got this game because I thought it'd be like transforming and running people over and peeling out on people's faces with Optimus Prime. I didn't think I was going to be playing like a menu game.
Yeah.
Like if I wanted to play this,
kind of caught off guard.
If I wanted to play this, I'd play Football Manager. I mean, come on. At least that has some kind of payoff.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Like you're going to love this game, Matt. Is what I'll say. Based upon what you just told me, you're going to love it because it is Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I mean, it has a lot of the same...
10.
Right, yeah, exactly. There are tweaks.
That's how big it is.
Right,
It's the next 9 installments.
Yeah, all in one. I mean, there are tweaks to the combat, but it is still predominantly the same. The atmosphere is kind of the same. It is grindy, just like the last one was. And look, I know there's an audience of people out there who love these games and love JRPGs, but... I mean, I feel like you've seen the developers and the publishers go away from it. Like, Square Enix doesn't make games like this anymore. Like, Final Fantasy isn't like this anymore for a reason.
Yep.
Japan,
Actually, the first one reminded me of Final Fantasy 12 more than anything
Exactly.
else.
Final Fantasy 12 was crazy grindy, but it was the last crazy grindy Final Fantasy game. Like, I feel like time has passed this game by, Matt. And, like...
Possibly.
I'm playing it and I'm enjoying it. I don't expect this game to sell that well. I think max by the time it's all said and done, it gets to like 1.5 million.
I think it's on the wrong system to sell anymore.
Because, I mean, look, it is really the pinnacle of that genre of games. It is the most polished, well-produced, lengthy, beefy, meaty, whatever you want to call it, example of that genre. It is... probably the best one ever made for a grindy JRPG. But I just really question whether people want these games anymore. And again, I know there is an audience out there. There's some people who will only play these games, and there's people who have their Vita just to play these games, and there's people who import games from Japan just to play these games. So that's all they want to play. But when you're talking about the preponderance of people who buy and play video games, I just don't feel like this is one that's going to resonate with them. And so after a 3-year... promotional cycle and build-up for this game, like, I just really fear it's going to land with a thud.
I pretty much agree with you. I just don't care because I want it.
Right.
Like, because I'm one of the people you're talking about there.
Yeah.
So, like, and I actually have drifted away from JRPGs in recent years where, like, they just stopped making the kind I liked. And the ones I liked the most were the ones that predate Final Fantasy VII, which to me ruined the genre for many, many years. JRPGs used to be structured like novels. They were very large, very sprawling. They had a very clear arc throughout, and like they kind of covered a very similar kind of structure. And then Final Fantasy VII had a structure that was much more like an anime series.
Also, here's the other thing.
And everything started like following that. And it took years and years for people to break away from that. And Suikoden was like the only saving grace of the genre for me for that period of time. And like Skies of Arcadia, games where it was okay for the characters to have fun, where it was like, hey, this is kind of an awesome adventure. Let's have a good time. Skies of Arcadia captures that better than anything else.
For sure. That's a good point, yeah.
And I missed that for a long time. So like, I got tired of sort of we're going to make a JRPG, but it's actually just like, you're going to play the same, I got tired of stuff like Final Fantasy VIII or whatever, where it's like, 40 hours into that game, you're doing the exact same thing you were 40 hours before. It's just the numbers are bigger, and you're waiting for the stupid story to finish.
I feel like that with this game, too, and like I felt like that way with the last Xenoblade Chronicles. Like, for me, there was a breaking point. I talked to you about this off camera. I think it was yesterday, actually. We were waiting for Tony to get here. That I played Tales of Symphonia for like 64 hours, and then I looked back and I was like, what the hell did I just do? I just did the same thing over and over. I mean, once you get to like the 20-hour mark in that game, like it's all laid bare. You have all the systems,
I never finished
the whole party's there.
I love the Tales games, but I never finished that one.
And I went on for another 40 hours. And this goes back to the topic we did on guilt. And how there's the other kind of guilt. Like, there's the guilt that we talked about was like when you do stuff in games that makes you feel guilty. But there's the other kind of guilt where you feel guilty for playing a video game. And I hardly ever get that, man. Because I always look at it like, well, I could be watching TV or I could be watching a movie like other people do. But JRPGs, it's the one genre where I actually do sometimes feel guilty for spending so much time on them. Because they move so slow. The story, again, like I feel like the story's made for me when I was 12, and like I feel guilt playing this game. And like,
I think it's just for me when I get to that point, I just stop. And
I can't though. I'm like evaluating the game, and so it's the other part of it too. Is I'm working on Sifted, and so I literally account for like every minute or every hour of my time. Like, and it's mapped out when I get up. I got to do this for 3 hours. I got 2 hours to do this. I got another call to do with Brent about that. Like, and so once the wife goes to sleep at night, I'm like, okay, I got 3 hours to play this game, so I can get 5 hours of sleep to get up and do it all over again. So when I'm sitting there and I've played for 3 hours and I'm doing the same shit 3 hours later that I was doing when I started that, like, it's tough. It's hard for me to rationalize doing it.
Well, I think it depends kind of what appeals you, what kind of, what hooks you, and I think there's certainly there.
And I do have that gene because let's be honest, like, either you have like that grinder gene,
right,
or you don't.
Well, it's like
some people will put up with it for an hour.
Well, and some things, some games, some JRPGs will hook me with their battle system. Xenoblade did. I felt like there was enough. Like variety in how you had to approach certain enemies. I couldn't just autopilot. That's what pulls me out of those things is when it hits the point where I'm either so powerful or the enemies are so blah that like you can just like hit X over and over again.
Look, I will say this has been balanced so far.
Right.
Like I have not got to the place where I'm just one hitting like enemies or anything.
But like, like to some people, like that kind of battle system idea is like what really gets them interested and keeps their attention. Whereas like for me, like once I hit like the 10th hour of like Call of Duty, like I'm just shooting the guys in the head.
Yeah.
Like it's what you end up considering like the grind that isn't worth your time is a very personal.
I guess you're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And so there's some people that this game is going to be a godsend, and some people that are just be like, I've done it. I know. It's like I feel like it's very easy to play this genre and feel like you at some point master the gameplay that the game is offering up, and some of them are better than others. I think Xenoblade is one of the better ones. I think there's games like, some of the lesser Final Fantasies or like, some
look, I could even go back and play the old 2D Final Fantasies, the 16-bit Final Fantasies.
Oh, but those are great. Those are
right.
Great
but what I'm saying is like, I can play those now as an adult, and the stories don't offend me.
Right.
Like I don't feel like that they were made for 13-year-old boys. Like they're timeless, like a Disney cartoon.
Well, it's because like I said, the structure. It was a novel structure. It was a structure of an epic tale. It was a structure of an epic novel. Whereas, like somewhere in the mid '90s, mainly centered around Final Fantasy VII, the structure changed to seasons of anime episodes. And if you analyze the narrative structure of Final Fantasy VII and the games that copy it, it's very much. It was very influenced by Evangelion. It was very influenced by that was the big show at the time in Japan, and like that's what it was. It was this journey of this kind of mopey character that doesn't, and everyone remembers Cloud as like kind of this mopey emo guy, but he wasn't in that game. He was actually kind of like a badass, and but no one remembers that because the meat of the character arc was sort of this self-discovery journey and this realization of self-delusion. And that's what people attach to that character. And so to the point that in Advent Children, Cloud actually is depicted like
You're
that.
right. Yeah, absolutely.
But he's not that in the game. He's actually pretty goofy most of the time, especially early on. He's got a sense of humor, and people forget that because the structure of that game's storytelling is so oppressive and so episodic, and it just never seems to go anywhere. The only things you remember are the main hits,
Beats, yeah.
And like, you look at something even that was contemporary, which was Suikoden 2, which is told, it's practically, in comparison structurally, it's practically Tolstoy.
Yeah.
It's like a Russian novel. It goes,
right.
You start in this thing and everything changes and everything goes out in a crazy town and like, nations are invaded and loyalties change and alignments switch, and at the end it all comes back down to these two guys that have been through all this hell and are years older, and like there's a catharsis at the end of that, and that's not there in kind of the mainstream sort of like we're appealing to the anime crowd. Games
I get no feels from this game at all so far. Like none. Like it feels like empty calories. I guess that's the best way to put it.
And I'll tell you this: like I haven't run into a game, a JRPG that made me feel like the stories and stuff like Suikoden or Phantasy Star or even Shadow Hearts made me feel in forever. Xenoblade didn't. Xenoblade Chronicles didn't do that for me. I liked the characters in Xenoblade Chronicles, but there's nothing particularly special about the story.
And again, that's another reason why I never managed to finish the game.
And I'd be lying if the reason Xenoblade Chronicles X appeals to me right now is because all the footage I've seen of this thing is jaw-droppingly beautiful.
It is, yeah. It's a very pretty game, and like I said, it is the pinnacle of this genre.
And
it's very polished.
And I love
the
battle
production values are incredible.
I love the combat enough in the first game that like I'm trusting these guys to do it again.
Yeah.
Basically. I mean, I don't expect the story to blow me away. I've already seen what all the outfits look like. They look like some kind of weird, fetishized thing half the time, and sometimes it just looks like somebody played too much Phantasy Star Online.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting the narrative to blow me away. I want to dig into game mechanics and be held by that for about 70 hours.
Well, that's what you're going to get. Yeah, I guess in closing on this topic, I would just say that...
I should note that I have not played a second of this game.
Yeah. I would say that, contrary to most games, this is actually a game where you are getting exactly what you think you're going to get from it. It is a massive JRPG that you need to dedicate a ton of time to. It is very slow to reward. There's a lot of grinding, but like I said, it is probably the gold standard for the genre. And honestly,
certainly in this generation.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about like modern technology and stuff like that, like, are you going to find another grindy JRPG with these production values?
I can't think of one.
That's what I'm saying.
I can't even think of one in development.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it may end up being like the final gold star standard, because a lot of the JRPGs that are being produced now are being produced by small teams with small budgets and like.
And I don't even know what to call Final Fantasy 15.
No, I don't either.
It looks like some kind of Kingdom Hearts.
I mean, it's really nothing like this. So. I hate to ever say, like, you're getting exactly what you think, but this is really a case where you're getting exactly what you think you're getting with Xenoblade Chronicles X. So, and I know the game comes out in a couple days, and some of you may be teetering on the edge, wondering whether you should go plunk down the money for it. If you love games like this, if you love JRPGs, go buy it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I did actually go through all the reviews that were curated on Sifted and other places, and, like, the constant thread is if you have even a little bit of interest in JRPGs, you have to play this game.
Yeah, I don't know if I would go that far. But...
it varies, but like to the point that there are some reviews saying like, "Hey, go buy a system for it."
Wow.
And I don't know.
If you're like the world's biggest JRPG fan, I could understand.
Frankly, I kind of did.
Yeah, I guess you did.
I mean, I wanted Mario Maker and Bayonetta and a whole bunch of other stuff as well. Yeah. But the thing that
those are just fringe benefits.
Yeah, the thing that finally pushed me to go get it was Xenoblade.
Well, hopefully that holds true for Nintendo, because they've been banking on this game for a long time. It did not do well in Japan, by the way. I
feel like I am not particularly representative of the gaming population as a whole. I feel like I'm just going to spend the rest of my life trying to recapture Phantasy Star 2.
Yeah. But I think that's why we're a good match for this show, because I kind of am more like in line with the common man. You are kind of more with like the niche folks. I think that's why we're a good combo in the show. You're
saying I'm the bigger nerd.
That could maybe. Hey, I didn't say that. You did. I'm a huge nerd too, man. I would never say I'm not a nerd.
Yeah, but you can talk football. that balances.
Yeah, we'll see. So, yeah, I would say if you thought you were going to like this game, you're going to like this game. It's pretty much exactly what you expect. If you've been watching all the media for this game and you were kind of like meh, it's meh for you.
I think I'm going to like this game.
I think Matt is going to love this game. And I think you'll be glad he bought a Wii U for it. And again, I hope that that's true. I hope a lot more people go and buy the Wii U for it.
My only concern is I am very impatient when it comes to robot suits.
Yeah, well, you better be patient then. I mean, the game did pretty much tank in Japan.
I'm ready.
Which is pretty crazy if you think about it. I mean, it is a JRPG through and through.
It really seems like it should have a better... I don't know, maybe people just don't want consoles over there anymore.
I think that's definitely true. It seems like handheld's the only thing doing well these days. So,
and I will also say this, just having actually set up the Wii U. The Wii U takes up a lot of real estate.
What do you mean?
Both in the sense, like, you've got the console, you've got the bar, you've got the...
Oh, I mean its footprint.
Yeah, just in terms of how much space it takes up in the living room. Like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And in a space-conscious place like Japan where you don't have that much room...
Stack your gamepad on top of the system. That's what I do.
I can't reach it.
You just go and grab it, slide it off. That's what I do.
I'm much lazier than that. I don't, there we go.
You must sit really close to your TV then.
Oh, no, I have a chaise lounge where all the controllers sit. Being able to turn consoles on with the controller is like one of the greatest things that's happened in the last 10 years for me.
All right, so we're about to move to our trailer of the week. Right now is a good time for you guys to get in questions for Matt and I to answer at the end of the show. By the time this trailer is finished running, we should be able to have a couple queued up and ready to answer them for you, but keep them coming. We will answer until they kind of peter out, and there's no more relevant questions to reply to. So,
or just one guy asking the same questions over and over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, that's fine. I mean, some people want us to answer their questions, and it is hard when we're trying to be conversational and read questions at the same time. Yeah, so send in your questions right now. The trailer of the week this week is pretty long, so it'll give you some time to get them in so it overcomes the delay. And our trailer of the week this week is for a very Japanese game. And with the Japanese theme, this show has kind of had a little bit of a Japanese flair to it. And it is for Attack on Titan. Matt, have you yet seen the Attack on Titan film that came out?
Oh, no. No.
You haven't?
No.
Like, I saw the trailers for that. I thought the trailers looked awesome.
I've seen the show and read some of the manga. My girlfriend is much more into it than I am, actually. Yeah. And she refused to see the movies because she thought they looked terrible. They
did air here, they were in theaters here.
They
ran in L.A.
limited engagements, but like it's a different setting. The characters are all different, and like.
Well, apparently the movie was awful, like terrible, awful.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, but so Koei Tecmo is making a game based on it, and it looks a little bit like a cross between Monster Hunter and Shadow of the Colossus. They put out a new trailer this week, just kind of an overview trailer. I was really impressed with it. Hopefully you guys will be too. This is the latest trailer for Attack on Titan.
世界が震撼したメガヒットコミックついにプレイステーションへ立体機動を駆使し巨人に立ち向かえ新感覚タクティカルハンティングアクションついてこい僕も行くよ一瞬の決断が仲間の生死人類の希望と絶望を左右する海破壊から背後を強襲巨人たちを駆逐せよ次用意はいいか餌のまま死にたくなければ必死に食らいついてこい絶対にやり遂げてやる刃の乾燥とガスの補充は戦闘に必須である過酷な戦況それぞれの思惑が重なり合い生まれる物語
今期の調査兵団志願者はいっぱいいるんだからね
心臓を捧げようガキどもぼさっとすんな巨人どもをただ眺めるのがお前らの仕事かあいつさえ仕留めれば進撃の巨人初回特典を手に入れろエレン、ミカサ、リヴァイの缶バッジセットをはじめファン必見のグッズ満載トレジャーボックス同時発売お前らなんかきっとリヴァイ兵長だ
So the game looks a lot better than the movie.
Yes, that's based on the anime. It's a much. They picked the right side on that one.
I think they picked the right developer for it too.
Yeah, it actually reminds. I can't remember the name of the game, but they did a recent game. A couple of them like began with a T, like Takeo or something like that. It was a very flying around doing. I feel like they're probably basing some of that on
the same tech.
It's the same tech or the same engine or something.
Interesting. Got any questions for us yet?
Let's see. Netflix asks, Shane, I'm headed to the Game Awards tomorrow. If I see you, can I get a picture?
Of course you can. Oh, yeah, man. For sure. You see me, just come up, holler. I'll buy you a drink, I promise. It would be awesome if I run into any of you sifters at the show tomorrow. If any of you guys are going and you see me, feel free to come up and say hello. Let's have a beer together, clang a couple drinks. Should be a good night. Yeah, if anybody sees me at the show or anywhere, anytime, never hesitate to come up and say hello. Like, I'm totally cool with it. My wife is totally cool with it. She doesn't care. She's flattered by it sometimes. So, yeah, if you ever see me anywhere, feel free to come up to me and say hello, and I'll do whatever you want as long as it's illegal.
Yeah. Cheater Hater asks, with the oversaturation of open world games this year, what would have happened if Zelda Wii U had come out this year?
Nothing. Like, as far as, like, being detrimental to Zelda?
Like lost in the shuffle, I guess?
I don't think so. I mean, it's Zelda.
Yeah.
Zelda will never, ever be lost in the shuffle. And even though it's an open world game, it would never be clumped in with all the other open world games.
It would always be its own beast.
Oh, yeah. And I'm sure that it's not going to be like Grand Theft Zelda. Like, I don't think you're going to be like horse jacking people and like stealing their horse or anything. I think it's going to have its own flair, and it's going to be kind of their own take and their own spin on open world games. So I honestly don't think it would have affected the sales of Zelda at all. I think, people who are going to buy Zelda are going to buy Zelda. And a lot of people would probably buy Zelda over a game like
I think Zelda's pretty crowd-proof.
Yeah, I'd agree as well. Let's see.
Wilson108 asks, do you think sites like Twitch will have an impact on how games are advertised and consumed in the future?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it
already
already is. Yeah.
Ask the Five Nights at Freddy's guy about that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw or not, but to kind of go back to the Game Awards, they're doing a really crazy thing with the Game Awards. So it's streaming on Xbox Live, and before they announce the winner of each award, you can vote on which game you think is going to win the award. And then if you do, you earn points or whatever. But also in that same interface, as they introduce games or certain games are nominated for things, you're going to be able to click on a link on Xbox Live and go get a flash discount on that game right then. So you're starting to see how live streaming is starting to get tied into the whole marketing thing and how money's starting to be generated from it. That's a really smart idea, by the way, if that was something that Jeff came up with. But look, streaming is huge. They're still trying to figure out ways to make money off of it, because the problem is with streaming, you don't have TV commercials. I mean, sure, when you first log on to a lot of streams, you watch that video ad or whatever, but then you really don't ever watch one again. And with television, unless you DVR something, you're forced to watch that commercial every 10 to 11 minutes or however long your blocks are. And they got to find a way to monetize live streaming the same way that they've monetized television. Because let's be honest, eventually television is going to go away. Mm-hmm. And all we're going to have is live streaming and live entertainment online. And so they're still in the early stages of trying to figure out how that's all going to work, how they're going to make money, how they're going to be profitable. And I think it takes people like Jeff to figure it out, someone who has a lot at stake. It's like me trying to figure out the subscription model for video game websites. When you have skin in the game, you bust your ass trying to figure out how to make it work. That's why we have the referral program on Sifted. That's why we have Gifted. Because when your ass is on the line, when you're doing something necessity is the mother of all invention, they say. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure Keeley was I need to generate more money, because you don't make money off of YouTube unless you're serving billions of videos. I think I've said it before, you have to serve 1 million videos on YouTube to get paid $1,000 from YouTube. So Jeff looking at it, I think, what was the numbers that he tossed around last year? 15 million people watched or something?
That seems high.
I think that was the number that was tossed around across all platforms and everything.
All platforms across, the archive and everything, maybe, yeah.
Right. So if you think about that, 15 million people, that's a huge number, by the way, and amazing and impressive. If he had served that on YouTube, he made $15,000 off the Game Award. Think about that, Matt. That's not enough to get Skrillex out of his house in a limo to come to the show. So
that's not enough to have the meeting to book the venue.
Exactly. So something's got to give, and so you're starting to see people get really inventive with how they work with this stuff, and I think what Jeff is doing with the Game Awards is kind of the next evolution of that. So I'm going to answer a real quick one here. What happened to bonus round? Will it be on Sifted? What happened to bonus round is it's just too expensive to produce and too hard to produce. And look, I don't work at GT anymore, and so I can't specifically vouch for them, but I do know what the model was like when I worked at GT with bonus round, and it was a pain in the ass because you have to corral several people who work in an insane industry where they're already flying all over the place all the time, going to events, or if they're developers, they can't get away from the development studio. It was very hard to book people for the show. Getting 4 or 5 people like you want to hear from, all in a room at the same time and there for a few hours, because you shoot several episodes at once and then you bank them all and then you roll them out over a month's time. And so, if you want that show to work, you have to roll out the red carpet. You have to pay for everyone's flights to come in. You have to pay for a nice hotel for them to stay in. And again, just breaking it down to economics, even in its heyday, back when GT was a beast, back in like 2010, 2011, Bonus Round was still only doing like 300,000 or 400,000 views per episode. And so you do 4 of those per shoot, that's 1 million views. With your CPM, you're making about $1,000 off a month worth of Bonus Round. Like, people don't get it, man. It's like, we put up Pactor Factor on YouTube now, and people are like, pay for this? What? Like, it's on YouTube. It's paid for. It's like, dude, like, the first episode of Pactor Factor, it had just been launched. It did like 8,000 views or something like that. It's like we made like 25 cents. Like, I think a lot of people just see stuff online and they're like, it's just making money because it's online, or everybody makes money on YouTube. Look at PewDiePie. Like, that's not how it works. Like, it's really expensive to produce content. And you're not even you're just talking about flying these people in and putting them up in hotels. You're not talking about like all the camera people that you have there, or the editor that you have cutting all the episodes, or the sound guy that's there. Like, people just don't get it because they're used to watching these people with a $50 webcam sit in front of their computer and blather on for an hour. And that's, to some people that's content. To some people it's not. And to me it's not. And so quality productions cost a lot of money. That's the bottom line. And that's why Bonus Round doesn't exist anymore. GT, I'm not there, so I can't specifically speak for them, but I'm sure they looked at it and they were like, well, let's see. Are we going to roll Huber out here? Are we going to roll, Kyle out here? And he can write up a script and he can talk for 10 minutes, and we have one guy with a camera and then one guy who edits it, and that's it. And it'll do probably as many views as the Bonus Round would do on GT at this point. So that's why it's not on GT. It's not coming to Sifted. We flat out can't afford it. That's being perfectly honest with you. With how much we ask for a year and how much it would cost to produce it, we just can't afford to produce a show like that. So if you guys are cool with us tripling the amount of money that we charge for an annual subscription, which I'm guessing you're not, it's going to be pretty much impossible for shows like Bonus Round to come to Sifted. So that's just breaking it down to economics.
Yakov226 wants to know, any idea what happened to Rhyme? Will we see it this week?
I've been begging for more Rhyme for how long now? Like, every time there's a new show, I'm like, we're going to see Rhyme this time. I do think we'll see it at PSX this weekend. If not, I'm going to get really worried that the game has been canned, because we haven't seen it since... I don't even know if they showed it at E3, Matt.
It was one of your most anticipated games for E3.
And I don't think
they showed it, no.
Yeah. It missed E3.
I remember running B-roll on the TriCaster, but I don't think it showed up in the press conference.
Right, and then it misses all the other shows, TGS, Gamescom. If it misses PSX, I'm really worried about that game.
Yeah, that's concerning if it doesn't show up at PSX, because that's the time.
It's also an indie game, I hope so. I really hope it shows up at PSX, because otherwise I'm going to be really scared that something's gone wrong.
M. Shane Clark asks, any chance for a once-a-month guest with Matt and Shane, or a once-a-month guest column opinionated piece?
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. I think the problem that we've had with getting guests on here, because if you remember when we first launched GameFace, we had a guest almost every week. Mm-hmm. But that also turned into a total nightmare. First it was the audio issues were terrible and getting that to work. Then it was getting people to actually set up a decent shot. You talk to them beforehand, you're like, don't have your wife walking around, and then you go live and there's the wife walking around, or there's the dog jumping up on their lap, or it's just really hard to do it via Skype and still have good quality production values. The other part of it, too, is just wrangling people and getting people on the shows. We have a lot of friends in the industry, but they're not going to come on the show every week. And so you saw at the beginning, Adam Sessler, who's a good friend of ours, came on, and a bunch of other people come on and do segments. But once they kind of do that first favor, it's really hard to get people to come back and do it again. So I'm certainly open to having more guests and even bringing people in via Skype. It's just really hard. One thing I would say is that early next year, when things calm down and people aren't so, I won't say stingy, but aren't so cognizant of how they're spending their time, the probability of people coming on and being guests with us is a lot higher. So right now it's impossible. Everyone's grinding through Q4. Every minute that they have, they're spending playing games, trying to get reviews up on their publications. So
Ian Esquire asks, question, will there be a sifted Game of the Year awards or perhaps big vote from the community to see where we all stand on the big games? I'd be curious to see what my fellow sifters liked.
Well, one thing we forgot to do is we were in the Game Awards segment. We are going to pick what we thought was going to win Game of the Year from the Game Awards. Mm-hmm. And so the nominees are Fallout 4, Witcher 3, Bloodborne, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, and Super Mario Maker. Now, keep in mind, this is not what we think is Game of the Year. This is what Matt and I think a collection of 30-some game journalists are going to choose. And just to be fair, I used to be on this editorial committee. I was on this committee for 7 years straight. I have a bit of an advantage. I know how they think. There was the 1 year that they gave it to The Walking Dead as Game of the Year, which I honestly am still shocked about. So, again, this isn't our picks for Game of the Year. This is us guessing what we think all these journalists are going to pick. Matt, you go first. What do you think?
I think they're going to give it to Super Mario Maker.
Really? I'm surprised to hear that. What, any rationale or reasoning?
It could be different this year, but last year Nintendo won a lot of stuff that confused me, and I think that's going to continue.
Yeah. I think Fallout 4 is going to win. I think it's just one of those franchises that all the journalists love. I think if you look at everything leading up to its release, like everyone was just gushing over it before they ever touched it. Just looking at the response to its first trailers and how all the journalists responded to that. Reading the editorials of people and watching podcasts of a lot of journalists trying to defend it once it came out, and people were like, "Oh, it's buggy," or "Oh, the graphics aren't good." I just feel like I've seen this like defense force kind of pop up a little bit in the press for the game, and I think it's gonna win Game of the Year at the Game Awards.
Possible, but I'm still. That would be my other pick, but I don't know. My gut tells me that Mario Maker's gonna be it.
It could. We'll see. And to your other question about are we doing Game of the Year awards? Maybe you joined the stream late. But we are doing a Game of the Year Awards episode of GameFace that is going to be live next Thursday. So, again, we're doing the next episode of GameFace next Tuesday, and then 2 days later, we're doing our Game of the Year episode, and then that will be it for GameFace for 2015. So, we will be doing our own awards. We'll definitely give out a Game of the Year award. We'll also have some fun awards to give out as well. So, but yeah, stay tuned for that. Find anything else? Oh, there's a ton.
There's a bunch of stuff. You pick one.
Oh, one thing I do want to say before we go is, guess what I saw today? You'll never guess. So I'll just answer my own question. Today, I finally saw the MP3 download for GameFace. It is coming.
Wow.
Finally, after all this time, I was going back and forth with Brent about it today. We worked on it for a couple hours today. Before I left, I texted him and asked him if he thought it was going to be ready for this show, which is tomorrow, and he just replied, and here it is. Yep, I'll have it in our secret test servers for you to look at in the morning. So this episode, you should be able to download the MP3, and I already know how it works. So just go look down there at the player, and there's an option for downloading the MP3, and it will be there forever going forward. And you won't be able to do this for just GameFace. It will actually be for any video that we produce. So there'll be an MP3 version of Pactor Factor. If we end up doing any more video game evals, they'll be there for that. Any video that we create will have an MP3 version.
From here on out, or will we be able to go back and do previous ones?
We actually are retrofitting the old episodes as well. So you'll be able to go back, and I don't know if people want to watch a 2-month-old episode of GameFace, but if they do, you'll be able to go back and get the MP3 for that. So
how's that for service?
Yeah. So finally,
new subscribers are going to want to go back and see everything.
That could be, and they do. Like, we look at the stats, and you can see when new people sign up, you'll see like the old episodes like getting some love from the people who weren't along for the ride the whole time. But yes, finally, the MP3 version of GameFace is here, and it will be here for this episode. So if you're watching this live on the site right now, it's too late. We're already at the end of the episode, but. For next week, and then our Game of the Year episode, you guys will be able to download the MP3 version. Finally. Glad Brent sent me that text just in the nick of time. We got anything else, or is that it? See See a lot of people arguing about what their game of the year is.
Yeah, there's a lot of game. Our pick for
Bloodborne,
that is-
MGS. I see a lot of MGS5. Life is Strange. There's an interesting pick.
I don't know. Wouldn't it surprise me if that had gotten nominated, but it didn't.
Yeah. All right, so I think that's it. Mm-hmm. All right, Sifters. Another great episode of GameFace. As always, we want to thank all the people who are along for the live stream and some of you in Europe who stayed up late to be with us. And again, thank you for sticking it out for an extra day after the problems we had with the live stream yesterday. So, like I said, 2 more episodes to go of GameFace before 2015 is over. We'll be here to do it, and we'll see you next week. GameFace is up and out.